Throwing that on them right now, though. We're live? Awesome. Awesome. So does this start with an intro? I guess so, right? Yeah? Just right into it? What's up, everybody? Today is the day we've all been waiting for a little while here. We've been putting a lot of work into this project, this new project that we're introducing called El Big League Show, as you can see on the wall here. This project is several years in the making, if you go back to the original conversations, but today, in a more formal manner, we've been locked in on this for the past 5 to 6 months. At first, I was reluctant about jumping into this venture, but then the more we kind of gained momentum as a sports network and as a company, it just made sense. This became more realistic, the ability to pull something like this off. My brother and I, who's actually a scout in the stands right now watching an opening day game, he and I have been ideating on baseball content for a long time and the kind of show that we would want to make. And this is the manifestation of that. This is conversations years ago that are scouts talking in the stands, just like baseball people having conversations about baseball in general. And here we are a few years later just trying to make it happen. So I don't want to give the impression that this is just me in this operation, as you'll see with everybody here and everybody behind the scenes. This is 78six Sports, which is our sports production company, kind of firing on all cylinders together to put out a project about something we're all passionate about, which is baseball. And today the Marlins happened to line up on the right day with the right kind of matchup in MLB with Paul Skeens going on. And so we are excited to start this venture on opening day with such a good matchup. We thought if we're going to drink beers, watch the game, that we'd at least, now that we have the power to get this content out there and record this episode. So since we can't show you the game live on the screen here, we're going to do our best to just be a good companion as you watch this game. We envision you guys having your iPads or your phones up and like kind of watching this as a true companion to this broadcast. So I guess without further ado, I guess I have to explain 78six Sports, right? So 78six Sports is really, a lot of us are represented here, and it's a group effort to come to a sports network that is truly our own sports network. It's I describe us sometimes as a renegade sports network, because just one day we decided that we were going to kind of collaborate together and make it happen, and that's how it's come together. Now, steps have happened for it to become more formal, but it really started as a place for people who are kind of get geeked out about sports in different ways, especially the Marlins. This was our original, organization point. But then it grew out to several different sports concepts that, while being a South Florida-driven sports network, we aim to have a more national conversation or international conversation, especially today, about baseball and about sports in general. So I'm trying to think of good ways to introduce everybody here as a whole group, but a couple really stand out here in the baseball direction, and that's, some of you may recognize Robert Hernandez from Un Podcast de las Mayores, formerly Un Podcast de los Marlins. Yeah, so I guess que podemos empezar la parte de la conversación en español ahora, creo. So the difference in this show, we think, from a lot of other ones will be that we're going to try to aim to do this completely bilingually, in English and Spanish, because that is us here at Cultura Media House, which is the larger company that runs 78six Sports. It's a lot of local kids from South Florida, largely of Cuban and Hispanic descent, that happen to be bilingual as well. And our everyday conversation, while is predominantly English, will bleed into Spanish all the time. And then I think if you scale that out further to baseball overall, you'll see that in major league clubhouses, minor league clubhouses, it's a mix of English and Spanish and some Japanese and some Korean, but it's big time English and Spanish. And there's a lot of people in those clubhouses that usually everybody understands enough of either language to contribute to the conversation, so it kind of fires back in both languages. You can be talking to somebody in English and they'll understand it, but maybe feel more comfortable speaking back in Spanish. I lean on the English side, but we operate enough in Spanish, and I've done enough episodes with Robert now to know that, para saber que podemos hacer esto en español también. So, queremos intentar algo para absorber la población latina y para la gente que habla en español, que puedan tener algo para ustedes que se sienta, nos toman en cuenta, nos tienen en cuenta. Es verdad, Robert, así es como inició la idea de nosotros, ¿no?
Y representando a los cubanos, tú sabes.
Especialmente,
como tú me dices, Arián me dice que yo veo los equipos si son buenos o malos según la cantidad de cubanos que tengo.
Robert, ¿qué es un podcast de las mayores?
Bueno, empezamos originalmente como un podcast de los
Marlins, ¿verdad?
Eso es súper crazy porque yo, como tú me ibas a hablar de béisbol, hacía el lado yo, pero con toda mi familia. Era el día entero, men. Y con los amigos y todo eso, y todo el mundo me decía como, no, ven, tremenda muela me está dando este tipo de pelota todos los días. Y todo el mundo me decía como, haz un día algo, que pues es lo peor que puede pasar, ¿entiendes? Y así lo estuve un año entero dándole vueltas, hasta que con Eliani, mi esposa, el trato era como, me vas a hablar de pelota solo cuando estés en el programa. O sea, así ella se eliminaba que yo pudiera hablar de béisbol fuera del programa. Y así empezamos. Y unas cosas súper locas. Adrián y yo no nos conocíamos. Sí, está ahí atrás. Adrián y yo no nos conocíamos. Y de la nada me dice, oye, me escribe un día. Y le digo, vamos a hablar, no sé qué. Y nos hablamos. Conversamos y me dijiste, ¿por qué no vienes un día y nos conocemos aquí mismo donde estamos? Yeah. Y así fue, vino un día, no nos conocíamos.
Hold on, context, because I would absorb everything in the sports baseball direction, especially like if it was Marlins and if it was content, I absorbed it. So any of those the Marlins beat writers and the Marlins Twitter is like a whole community of people who tweet, and like when I was working for the Marlins, because that's what I did for a little while before doing all this, I would follow anything that put out content in the Marlins direction, and all of a sudden this podcast popped up that said, un podcast de los Marlins. And I was like, ¿qué? Okay, on Spotify. I actually found it on Spotify originally. And then I listened to it and realized that it was a one-of-a-kind thing. It was a podcast about the Marlins, but totally in Spanish, and you knew what you were talking about. You know, you were following and you were putting it out casi todos los días.
En ese momento lo hacíamos cada vez que iba a empezar una serie.
Okay,
o sea,
so at the beginning of every series.
Exacto, dos veces a la semana por ahí.
Right. And it just so happened to be right at the time when I had gotten this new studio. Actually, yo creo que tú precedes todo esto. You precede this entire group.
A mí me llamó mucho la atención eso. Que yo te lo he dicho muchas veces y a mí me impresionó mucho, Adrián, la capacidad de hacer. Porque todo el mundo dice, no, yo voy a hacer esto, yo voy a hacer lo otro. Y la diferencia es la gente que son capaces de hacer todo lo que está en su cabeza. Así mismo. Pero lo chistoso fue que él me dice, imagínate una persona que tú no conoces, ¿entiendes? Que tú nunca en la vida lo has visto. Y te dice, no, lo que voy a hacer aquí es un estudio y va a haber una pila de creador y cada cual va a hacer lo que quiere, porque yo lo que quiero es, y cámaras y podcast y cosas. Y yo como lo miraba así decía, ¿y este loco? Mira, me fui, me acuerdo que hicimos un podcast juntos de los Marlins en ese momento, y como a los 3 meses regreso. Y cuando regresé ya estaba todo esto armado. Y yo dije, este no es un loco, ¿entiendes? Este tipo de verdad está... Y yo dije, wow, qué capacidad de armar cosas. Y en ese momento era él solo cuando él me lo dijo. No existía Cultura Media House, todo eso estaba en su cabeza. Y el tipo lo hizo. Y a partir de ahí me dijo un día como, ¿por qué no viene un día y te graba? Porque yo tenía...
You didn't want to do video?
Yo no quería, me daba miedo, escénico. ¿Por qué no viene un día y te grabas? No sé qué. Y así fue. Me grabé el primer día con él, me gustó.
One.
Sí, pitch 2 también.
And there's going to be a baseball game going on.
Yeah. So, y bueno, para hacerle cuento largo corto, básicamente nos grabamos un día. Yo siempre he dicho, yo tengo una química con él para hablar de béisbol muy cool. Y así empezó todo y pasamos a hacer, nos dimos cuenta que poco a poco hablamos no solo de los Marlins, sino también de los demás equipos y cambiamos el nombre un poco a las mayores. Y bueno, es lo que es hoy. Así es la historia de cómo llegamos a podcast las mayores.
Wow. I love hearing that story again because there was so many points where it couldn't have happened or like might not have happened if either party didn't just kind of make a good collaboration. But the thing that stands out is that you were hungry and energetic about something and wanted to create a project. And I think that that's the energy in here that I was attracted to. I'm going to pause for a second just because I want to talk through this game a little bit. We're now in a 2-2 count, but it's not going to be a color commentary. It's not going to be a play-by-play podcast. It's going to be a watching of the game in hopefully in an advanced and sophisticated way that can comment on it informally. It doesn't have to be locked into every pitch. It should simulate the kind of experience you have at a ballpark when you're, at least for me, when I was in the stands.
That was a good throw.
When I was in the stands amongst other scouts, like you don't get to talk to each other because you kind of got to, not be talking to each other, but you're always talking to each other. And so that conversation that never got unearthed, that never came anywhere, I thought we could bring it up a little bit here. But the other person I want to introduce here real quick before I get into everybody's introduction, because I don't want them to just be sitting here without being introduced, but it's Giancarlo DeVito over there from @Legends of Dade. One of my, truly like another very cool, we have all these different legs to this table that is 786 Sports and Cultura Media House, and yours is one of the foundational ones for 786 Sports, because first of all, I had followed you and your baseball, let's call it your Marlins baseball nostalgia account, right? That you would think such a thing as a really niche community, but your community is massive and engaged, and like they love the stuff you put out. So it was matching with this, you have this idea for this group or this collaboration, but here are these individual entities with Robert and his thing and Giancarlo with his thing that were moving in this baseball direction, this Marlins direction anyway. And you actually, I think, Roby, you were the first one who told me about Giancarlo and partnering with him officially. And I swear, man, the moment we did that, our baseball stuff like took off, because while your content is primarily in English and Robert's in Spanish, we've been able to like do this 360 coverage of baseball in South Florida, Marlins baseball, but then scale out even more and do national baseball, which is what we're attempting to do here. But here we want to go completely international. We want people to understand that baseball is a global game in the truest sense. I don't know if more so than any other sport, but definitely as much as any other sport, where, I mean, you're looking at it right now from, Nisao in the Dominican Republic, O'Neal Cruz, and Sandy from, I believe Sandy's from San Cristobal, places that I've frequented often. But, here we are, opening day, really good matchup, and it's a very Hispanic, Latin American, Dominican matchup right here. There's actually freaking power versus power right here. Sandy's going to win the Cy Young is my hot take for this year. He's going to play for two teams and he's going to win the Cy Young. So, to open with a hot take.
No empieza así el año, bro.
Right. But back to...
No, pero tiene que saberlo desde ahora.
Las malas noticias, dámela ya cuando ya no...
But Giancarlo, man, you've like reignited this like energy to that, the stuff that we grew up with, the things that are nostalgic, the things that, and I'll let you explain the Legends of Dade concept further, but I think anybody who follows the account follows with like, you follow with your heart, because it's like a nostalgic connection with things you grew up with, and a changing of, it's kind of like, it's bittersweet because it's a logo that doesn't really exist anymore. But in here, if you come to our studio, it's all over the place. But I'll, oh wow.
Kind of corny.
That's something.
How would you describe Legends of Dade? Like, how would you introduce that?
I mean, it's something that I was surprised to see. Like you said, it turned into a community, but it was more something like for myself. Like I wanted more like Florida Marlins content, like Florida Marlins nostalgia content. That it was the glory days for the Marlins, right? Like there's not much winning going on, or at least at the time that I created the account. We're still in the playoff drought, so I was surprised to learn how many people felt the same way that I did. Like you said, a niche community where everybody kind of feels the same way. Everybody wants the teal back. Everybody loves the Florida Marlins. Everybody had great memories growing up, and everybody's memories are unique. But like everybody kind of bonds over that, and like to me, like the best or the greatest satisfaction I get from the page is like people like connecting through the page in the comment section. Like I was here at this game. Wow, this reminds me of when I was with my dad or with my uncle or whatever. Like, like we're all the one baseball community at the end of the day, Miami baseball community that doesn't get the rap that it should get, or doesn't get, people don't realize the amount of history that it has. Yeah. And it's a history that doesn't get acknowledged as much as it should. So I'm just trying to do my part to keep that, the tradition alive and their history alive my own way. So if I could,
you're doing it.
If I could do that even 1% and make a difference, or keep that tradition alive or that history alive, dude, like that's all the satisfaction I need, bro.
First of all, you're doing it. Second, like if we all pulled all of us right now to take like a picture from when you were 5 to 10 or 12, high chances that one of us, like it's like a Marlins gear picture, teal and black, or teal, like dude. Heat or Dolphins. But that teal and black aesthetic, I think, it's part of the reason that community is like it's connected. And we can have that discussion about why that logo no longer exists, and I very much intend to, but maybe we'll save that for a later part of the conversation and not get derailed. But really, like, it was the combination of these like collaborating with these two entities kind of, I feel like, gave us the snowball effect to like keep growing more. But I don't want to go further without introducing another regular in the cast, which is Junior Alonso behind the camera over there. Caballo Power.
Caballo Power.
What's up?
Caballo power.
Which that's a teaser for later. But now it's, as I was thinking about, like, do I want to do this? Do I even want to be in front, like forward facing this? Knowing that I'd have like a partner, first of all, with you guys, but to also know that Junior was down to do this with me and tell me when I'm out of pocket over here and just kind of be a overall support system for the show, literally as our producer and also just as a great human being overall. But he's wearing his Marlins Dontrell Willis jersey right now that looks worn in and truly worn for a long time. So we all organized around this thing. This is not intended to be a Marlins show or a South Florida show, but South Florida is the vehicle that got us here. So it's going to come up often, and like right now we're covering one of these games and using that as the excuse to talk more. So, you know, there's also like the other legs to 786 Sports that are here right now. David Verjano, who's a new member of the crew, and so glad that he's here. Yeah, super talented artist extraordinaire, really. I feel like he's living in the future when all of us are still in like some analog age, just as a designer, as an artist, and I mean that sincerely. But I think the thing that we organized around from a sports standpoint is the courtside creatives, is like your upbringing was more in the, probably closer to the hoops side of things and to Miami Heat culture side of things. So it just felt like a natural extension of the network to like, yeah, we love that too. Like the Heat jerseys are all in here, and like hoops was as much of our upbringing because of the organization we came up with. So it just seemed like another entity that was organized and interested in sports and energized by it. And we saw a natural fit and a natural collaboration. I hope I gave Courtside Creatives its due part, because it's a really cool thing that I'm glad we're venturing into.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up like most of us here that playing Little League ball. It just maybe sooner than later I realized it wasn't as at the pace that I wanted it to be. So then I found things like basketball to kind of fill that gap. But I grew up, you know, with these teams, and we definitely have all that we share here together. And yeah, Courtside Creatives really was at the inception of not just being like a Heat fan, but being a hoops fan, and doing it from the perspective of someone that grew up here and acting in that way, that a little bit of what Legends of Day does, highlighting the history, the nostalgia, acting as another voice in the industry to kind of showcase what the team has been through and where we've gotten. And also really the intersection of now basketball and sport being viewed as art. And I think that's where we've gotten to this point where you can see the blending of the world's fashion, art, creativity, as well as the sport itself. So really, I just want to be another voice in that space, and I love what everyone's doing here, and I felt like it was a natural fit. So that's kind of like how it came about.
I love it, man. And I'm excited to see a lot more from Courtside Creative, just the stuff that you've been able to do, the visualization of the data, and if you follow the account, you know what I'm talking about. So if you don't, you need to. But the visualized data components, like the bringing out, because you're a talented visual artist, that's not some separate entity from sports altogether, and then they blend in fashion and apparel, but also like some of the I don't know, the AI generation at our fingertips now. You know how to feel like the future's coming, and you got a surfboard and you've been like, you know, using it. So us at Cultura have benefited from that now through this partnership. I mean, selfishly, I've grown as an artist a ton. But even more, like, this show is very directly inspired by the conversations that we had. Like, and it's you and I and a whiteboard back there just ideating on what a version of this could look like. But then there's also like everybody else connected to it. So like Mark is over there in his super dope jersey. Mark is our.
This is my dad's jersey. This is actually my dad's. I went to his house to go take it.
In his super authentic Marlins gear.
This is for sure like 93.
Mark, you and I were here early days, actually the day of Roby and Zaya, which I'll introduce when they come in. But like you and I talked about, you're the first person with a camera that I, you know, sat with and like, hey, let's try to make some stuff.
Yeah.
You know, let's try to like, I don't know what it looks like yet. Like it's super rough. Like nobody was in here. It was just you and I, literally you two and Amanda. who we'll save for a finale later because she deserves a big introduction, who's been hearing about El Big League Show for a long time when it had 7 different names. But it was from that day that Roby and Hector showed up on that day, and it was because we were talking about making something that we're sitting here, like making something that I didn't think we'd elevate it to this extent. Definitely not this quickly, but Mark is an extremely talented, you're our in-house director of photography and everything. If you like the way we shoot things, the way we light things, the things we've put out, then you like Mark's work, and I know I do. And I think it's super important, the people who you start these things with at the beginning, because they can give you energy, momentum, you feed off another creative's ideas and vibe, and I think we're here because of those initial conversations,
I think the speed that we got here is a testament to the team that we have around us, and that all of us, like what Robert was saying, all of us were just like, let's just do it. Let's just make stuff and see what happens and keep on shooting and keep on shooting and figure out what we like and work on it. And that's what we're currently doing right now. We're working on this and figuring out what we like, and this too will grow too. And like we are as a company, we're growing and we're doing a lot more projects, and I'm excited to be here, and thank you for your kind words too.
Of course, man. And what it stands out from that day is you walked in with a hat that said make video horizontal again.
Correct.
And I support this movement.
Yes.
And so it just spoke to a fact that you appreciate the art and the film, and it's just not how we were trained to.
We couldn't
the things that we came up on weren't like that.
We couldn't fit all of these guys if we were shooting vertical.
If it was just a vertical.
Look at this beautiful set. We got all this artwork here. So.
Yeah. So I'm and it's been like a kind of a true artistry from then, like a search for like just a lot of different creative people collaborating, and that art and sports can go together very directly, which is not something that I knew until I learned, while I was trying to do both baseball and art. And then what I like even further is having Daylon and Albert here, because they're kind of they saw the things we were working on. We had a production studio, and I don't want to speak for you guys. I want you guys to be able to introduce the sweet spot yourselves. But it's kind of like what we had set up and the kind of the thing that we started. They were probably similarly minded, having these kinds of conversations for years. Baseball connected, South Florida driven as well, and through, of course, like everybody else, through junior. Everybody has 1 degree of separation to junior back there. But we were able to kind of come to a collaboration where, like, well, if you guys are going to make something and you want to make something, and I'll let you explain what that is, but we can facilitate that. Not only from we have the cameras, we have the 4 walls and a camera, and the 3 cameras, but also that we could just kind of help you get it off the ground. Like, get your reps in, have your first few episodes, because as we know now, and as I'm learning right now, it's, there's some rhythm that you have to get into in order to do this semi-well. So I'll let you guys introduce the concept. Where do you guys want to start?
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. Thanks for having us. This is I feel like home right now, right?
Yeah.
So it's a really nice setup. Great being around the guys. This kind of came about a couple of years ago, right? I didn't even know Albert. We met through fantasy baseball. And as we started talking,
We'll get into that.
Yeah,
we'll get into that. We'll get into that. We're actually right now on our phones looking at each
Yeah,
other, like,
you're
what's
like,
going on?
what
What's
is
going on
that?
right now? What
Who had
about the
Skeens?
other
Who had
games?
Alcantara?
Necesitamos hacer una liga.
He
bro.
kept Alcantara.
Fantasy baseball aquí.
Oh,
That could happen. Let's make that happen.
Absolutely not.
Let's make that happen.
In
Let's
true,
make that
in
happen.
true
Not
form,
into that.
in true form, we're going to do the draft after the season started. But please continue.
So it started with that. Then all of a sudden, the more we started talking, it's like, okay, we kind of went to the same school. We went to college just like a year apart. We kind of grew up the same way. Like, he spent time living in DR. I spent time in my youth living in DR.
Cut your teeth in baseball. You kind of spent your whole life playing baseball.
Yeah, well, it wasn't even baseball. Just the interaction between the two of
A
us
lot
is
of our
like,
background is
yeah, a lot of our background is
is
very similar, and now it's to the point where we look at each other's drafts and waiver pickups, and it's like, man, we're literally
This
doing
is
the
why
same
we have a
exact thing.
podcast.
So it's like, it all started with that, and at the time, some of our friends told us, hey, you guys got to do a podcast, right? Like, you guys are fun, you guys are interactive, you know what you're talking about.
Igual que Robert, by the way. Very,
Yeah.
very, very similar.
Yeah,
Ustedes
igualito.
no se callan. You guys are
Igualito,
always talking about
igualito.
baseball.
time.
Igualito. Like, get
Yeah, I'm
off.
surprised. We've kept you, sin hablar español todavía un rato. Pero ese va a ser un juego de ping-pong. Yeah.
So all of a sudden we're like, okay, let's try to do it. We didn't know exactly what we wanted to do, and it just so happened that I have a lot of kids, right? So I have 4 kids. They're all athletic. They're all playing sports.
Nice.
So I've been in this journey with youth baseball. Tried starting my own organization. We call it Sweet Spot, and that's how it kind of all started. So then that gave us like from seeing everything that was going on in youth sports and youth baseball, how parents, how coaches, how everybody interacts within the community. I told Albert, I'm like, Albert, we got to do something around that same type of atmosphere. And try to provide some of our stories, some of our experiences with the kids, because that's what we want. We want the best for the kids. And then kind of like that nostalgia that we've had from learning baseball and youth sports in our youth, all those experiences that we had, kind of bring them on, to the kids, and have, everybody learn, because there's a lot of wild things that we see out there.
And our coaching mentality is a little bit different than what we're accustomed to down here.
Sure.
So we're very much on the develop the player. Don't worry about how we play in that perfect game tournament and what the outcome is. Like develop the player and develop the mentality. Yeah, it's not so much outcome based. It's develop the kid.
Sure.
And have a good environment around the games and the practices and with the parents specifically.
Like a positive baseball experience.
Correct.
That shouldn't seem like a refreshing thing to have to say, but like I see
it's a little.
I've seen every iteration of baseball. Literally, I lived it myself, but then have also seen the other side of major leaguers all the way down the spectrum to where you start playing baseball. And there are a lot of things that we can get into about youth baseball that are problematic, and Miami's not immune to those problems. Actually, it might augment a lot of those problems in a way,
100%.
because there's talented kids. We're playing year round. You can get into the system of and I mean a system of South Florida travel ball when your kid is 5 years old and you feel peer pressured to go to every event, every this, and we can go on this subject for a while. But I point to Giancarlo because we were just talking about it. Shout out Damien, on this podcast. Which is Giancarlo's son, who's what? He's 5 now? He's 5, just turned 5, and is super into baseball. And Giancarlo and I have already, I was like, if we're talking about hitting instructors already, we got problems. But he's feeling like the need to participate in every practice and go to these games. And it's I've seen the rest of that evolution, and you can burn a kid out doing it a certain way early.
But if the kid has that motor,
right,
innately,
right, you got to feed that too.
Use
so
the
it's
motor.
a balance,
Right.
right?
One of the things that we've kind of learned with the guests that we've had is that it's been very unique, because some of the things that we've done and some of the information that we've gotten from the guests that we've had is insightful for us, right? So I've made adjustments myself, on how to, how do I treat the kids? How do I motivate them more? How do I do these things where it's more about mental health? It's more about all these little things that we're kind of learning as some of these guys that have already made it, that they've gone through that struggle. Even though you see them in the major leagues and you see them successful careers, everybody has those struggles, and it's things that, we're learning along the way, and we're just extremely excited to be here with all of you guys and share those experiences. And again, like I said, it feels like home.
When we first walked in here, and you can ask Dalen, looking around and I've told Junior, I think I told you last week, the vibe, the energy that you guys have created here it's phenomenal, man.
Thank you,
and
man.
it's very refreshing, and it's a great project that you guys have.
And on
have
top
started.
of that, I extension of Junior, right? Then I get here and I play with JC since we were,
Of course.
6-7 years old.
JC with the most FOMO of anybody in this entire building right now.
Yeah. Where's that
He's
guy
behind a lot of it, but he ain't here.
Where's that guy at? Where's he at? Where's he
Shout out
at?
to-
Just moved, dude.
Pero nos está viendo, está en los
No,
comentarios.
I'm sure he's got us on the big screen at home.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Shout out to JC.
So you guys played together in high school?
Yeah, wow, we played together since we were little kids.
Wow.
And then we ended up, even in college, we played together.
Yeah, we have a
Wow.
picture here of a young Junior and young JC on the same, the Little League photos where you're all standing next to each other? It's a JC and Junior. I think you guys are like 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old, something like that. But
1996. Do the math.
That was the other day, bro.
Bro,
The year before the greatest year of our lives in '97.
Yep.
But it's so we gotta. I like that this is the group that's on camera here first because you'll show the diversity of how we got to, or how we're covering sports overall and how we're kind of impacting sports. But the baseball is the vehicle that got us here first, so it's appropriate that this is the one we're kind of starting one of these projects with. But I'm excited to talk about some of the other stuff, Combat Coffee Club, and shout out Hector Zaya back there.
What up?
We're going to try something out with this stream. Can we tease it out now, Junior? Can we tease out we want to be a true companion watch to this. So we're going to try to flash some stuff on the screen that is, it's just a little more of a advanced nugget of how to watch, watch the game, I think I'll see it here in a second, but it's presenting this site, for example, called Baseball Savant, that is just a really clean visual presentation of where this player fits and where this player sits on an average, right? This site I use, you can use Fangraphs, you can use a bunch of other ones. This one I like because you open it and it immediately contextualizes it in these vertical bars, and it tells you where exactly this guy sits. And so if it's hard hit rate, and it'll say a 68, that means he's in the 68th percentile in the major leagues of hard hit percentage. So it allows you to see where a player sits relative to the other players, obviously 99 or 100 being at the top of the scale. So right now, when you put up Paul Skeens, he looks like all the bars are red, so yes, red means very, very good in this instance, and he's a truly generational player. It's no accident that we chose this matchup. It just seemed perfect for, hey, if you like baseball, you're probably watching this matchup, and we want to add some nuggets here as we talk about it, because you guys can't, we're looking up at the screen up there, but you guys obviously aren't looking at our screen watching the gameplay. I wish that was possible. We'll get to it, man. We'll get to that.
Yeah. Yo quiero decir una cosita
Dime,
rápido.
please. Ping pong, back to Spanish.
Taylor O'Neill, ¿verdad?
Ajá.
Nuevo jugador de los Orioles.
Right.
Acaba de dar su sexto jonrón seguido en Opening Day.
Opening day.
Oh, nice.
So,
Wow.
literal, el año que viene, cuando sea el Opening Day, pónganle dinero que el tipo va a
Yeah, dude, I wonder what the odds were for that one
¿Tú
today.
sabes qué es lo mejor de eso? Que está en el equipo mío de fantasy.
¿Pero lo tienes en el banco
circula.
o
Todo
estás
circula.
jugando? Está bien.
Robert, quiero empezar con ustedes, especialmente contigo y con Giancarlo, porque estamos viendo los Marlins, ¿verdad? Pero esta no es una temporada muy, I'm not too much of an optimist for this season from a win-loss standpoint.
Yeah.
But, and it's a big caveat, I want to be able to, it's almost like I want to help a lot of Miami sports fans generally, but South Florida it's okay to be watching a not so great team and still be enjoying baseball. It's totally, if you look at it a certain way, 29 teams lose every year. If you really do this binary, if you ain't first, you're last kind of thing. I don't subscribe to that personally. I think there's all sorts of degrees of success to a season, and that doesn't only have to mean winning the World Series. Now, we so happen to be the Marlins on the other end of that spectrum this year, so you're on the finishing 27th, 28th, or 30 out of 30, and that's rough to go through no matter what, as Peter's got to justify that, now. But there's a way to watch these games, I think, where you still appreciate it. We still have Sandy going opening day. We got some interesting young players that you can follow the genesis of the journey. But I bring you two up because you guys are fans no matter what.
Yeah.
I'll throttle off the interest. I'll throttle it back on if it's starting to get a little more exciting. But I feel like you guys we've had conversations hey, what's the best case scenario? You think what could go well? You're asking me from a standpoint of is there a sneaky chance? And I think that's beautiful. I think that should always exist. And I bring that up because Albert, you're going to come on this podcast a little later. He's a good friend of mine and an even better friend of my brother. I think you're day to day with this team for every year of your life? Every year. Yeah, right. So cool. And I think that's good. I think that should continue to exist. That's baseball Americana right there. That's what.
Well, we were talking about this earlier. It's a little hard to make that happen, right? When it's impossible to watch the game.
Yeah. So that was we went through a little bit here trying to figure out what was the best way to have the game streaming in the background, and surprisingly difficult. Even if you purchase the MLB.TV premium account, turns out we wouldn't be able to watch the Marlins on this MLB premium account. And I think it's something that it feels out of step with the way we absorb content today. It's just like some deal or some element of a contract that is pushing fans into certain pockets, but I just don't think that's consistent with the way people want to watch the game or engage with it now. I shouldn't pay for the premium MLB package and then be blocked out of my own local network. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people aren't going to be happy that I'm saying this, but like it's kind of bullshit. Like it doesn't make any sense. It's just out of step with today, and I think that it feels like an easy adjustment. Just like let the people in your home network, like you're either forcing me to only watch Marlins baseball, which happens to not be a very good product right now, or I get to watch everything else, but I can't watch the Marlins. Those are pretty much my two options. Or you want me to pay for both packages, which is just an unrealistic expectation right now. And you make the, like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to watch the Marlins, right? I guess I'll just default to only watching everybody else, which compounds the issue. So lo hace peor.
Sí, pero ahí entran los temas de los permisos que tienen las propias agencias. Por ejemplo, Bally Sport tiene los permisos locales.
Oh, yo lo entiendo.
Entonces, MLB,
pero no hay un Bally Sports ya.
Sí, ya todavía lo hay para este año en Florida.
No, this is FanDuel Sports that we're
FanDuel,
watching.
lo cambiaron, ¿verdad? Es FanDuel.
Yeah, so
pero
it's already
you have to
changed.
pay for FanDuel on on Comcast.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not like you before where when you got the basic cable with that Bally's came with it, right? Like it's now you have to buy a special sports package.
It was very intentionally two different things, and here I am sitting here willing, like, okay, I have my credit card, or I guess we're going to wear it because we have to watch the game, so I was willing to do whatever, and I was like, this is weird that it's this hard to have to
It's massively
do it this
way. In a time that it could be the easiest thing
and it's
to
forcing
have.
And it's forcing me to make a decision on like, am I going to watch the rest of the MLB? Because I'm probably not going to pay for both if it's just a person. I'm going to wear it now because the show needs it, right? But like individual, you're like, oh, I either watch the Marlins or I watch the league. I'm going to pick the league. Yeah. And that MLB app is awesome. And you'll get like premium features on that. I highly recommend it because it's like you watch condensed games, which I love. It seems like as a former baseball executive and like just the way I like to absorb the game, it's actually not live. It's the next day, with less emotion attached to it and condensed, like pop, 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 pop.
That makes sense.
And if you think about it, 81 games are on the road, and you can watch the Marlins when they're on the road perfectly fine.
Right.
Because you get the other.
Except not at home.
I don't think it does.
No?
I think it blocks. No, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah,
Well, at least for NFL, maybe I shouldn't say it like as a definite, but like for like the NFL, that wouldn't happen. Like you wouldn't get the New York.
The feed. You can't get the feed from the Yankees. Like
you can get the opposing broadcast.
Yeah,
I don't think you can.
Well, I think
it's blocked out too. Like they're both blocked out. Like it shows you both of them. It shows you like the New York broadcast and it shows you the whatever, but they're both
blocked out.
Yeah, because your team is on it.
I've had MLB TV before, and I'm, let's say in like Boston, I'm able to watch the Marlins.
Yeah, because it does it by the IP address.
Exactly.
That's the
because you were in
I
Miami, right? That's why.
Yeah, because it does it by the IP address.
This is a positive podcast, so we can get easily to get
opening
with
day.
Marlins
And it's opening day, yeah.
So we're gonna keep the.
Can we talk a little bit about this Cleveland jersey, because for everyone to know that it's not just the Cleveland jersey.
Right. It's
talking about
Ricky
the
Bond.
Nostalgia, the influence of like film, art, all that kind of stuff. Like right there, it's a perfect jersey. I love it. It's not just a Cleveland jersey.
No.
Not
It's
only
a
that,
wild thing, baby.
It's perfect for us. Like, if I could tell you how often Major League 1 or 2, or even back to the minors, if you go that deep, it comes up a lot, and it's kind of right in our not only like our nostalgic wheelhouse, but just movies like that. It feels like they're fewer and further in between nowadays. But I think this is cycling back around. Because we will try to do is like use that as an influence when we make content ourselves. So it'll find a way to circle The Sandlot, things like that. But that didn't happen by accident. That's cool. We talked
Junior is the one that gave me the idea to wear this one today.
It. Of course he is. That actually director of vibes right there.
Yeah.
Vibe curator.
Setting the vibe. All right. So
Pero todavía tenemos unos hits, bro. Ninguno de los dos equipos ha dado hits. Solo una persona se ha
The first
envasado.
rule of baseball.
Por base por bola.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got
Man.
two no-hitters going right now.
Increíble, bro.
Sandy's on right now, by the way.
Yeah,
You guys
he's
haven't
Okay.
noticed.
been
He's
filthy.
filthy right now.
If Mark, I'm glad you're here because your brother works, you know, at a location where a lot of athletes do their training and their, you know, kind of off-season programs. And if you could hear the commentary from the other people that are there training, and they'll watch like a Sandy Alcantara bullpen, like a rehab start, they're like, yo, this guy. Like, I was like, yeah, because I have seen the arc of Sandy Alcantara, like from, I got to the Marlins in the end of 2018, and he was not that at the end of 2018, right? Like that wasn't, the projection was that he was going to be good, but he hit all those projections. So I felt like I was watching like a really, like I got to see the Cy Young year up close, all that stuff, and hard to feel like there's better in the game when he's on. But then, like there's something that happens to a player, man, when he gets hurt. And some guys take it the other direction and don't take it the way, but some guys take it as an even bigger chip on their shoulder. And a lot of guys, they didn't value certain things, and then they get hurt badly, and now all of a sudden perspective shifts, and you're thinking, I got to imagine you're in the weight room with a different intensity, you're just going after everything with a different intensity, and it could break that way too, and it sounds like that's the way it's broken, at least to this point with Sandy, which is, if you know him at all, and we've spent some time around him, like it's about as good as it gets, competitor-wise, like stuff that you do between starts, like hitting the weight room after starts and just like getting after it in there. I don't see a lot of pitchers do it that way. It's not that none of them do it.
Well,
There's
I
a
think
good
when you get injured, you get that fear, right? Fear that you're
For
going to
sure.
re-injure, fear of like, oh, maybe I'm not as good anymore, maybe I can't bring it, and
Right.
what happens is you kind of hold back. And what we've seen in these first 3 innings, he does not look like he's holding back. He doesn't look. He doesn't look afraid. He looks like he's
That's
dialed in,
and
Painting corners, by the
painting.
way.
Yeah, and
This
he's
is
getting
pure-
Otra cosa
pure
interesante.
getting after it, man. It's,
Otra cosa interesante, no sé si se han dado cuenta, y yo nunca lo había visto. Él está llamando sus picheos.
Yeah.
Él por primera vez en Sandy no he visto que el cache es el que está llamando los
Right.
picheos. Él está llamando sus propios picheos y estamos viendo algo nuevo en él también. So,
Old
hay
school
que-
Greg Maddux.
Sí, hay otros pitchers que lo
He used
hacen.
to like do the angle with which he caught the ball is kind of the next pitch.
Is the
Like,
next
the way he
pitch.
caught the ball from the catcher, which is
what an incredible video.
confidence at a level I can't even comprehend.
Would you say that Greg Maddux is like the Kobe Bryant of baseball? Like
The
now that
Kobe
I'm
Bryant of
like,
baseball, Greg Maddux?
Yeah. Because
Wow.
now that I'm seeing like all these like content where he's giving like the insight.
Yeah, we
of
got
how
to
he
we got
would
to caveat
operate.
that he's still alive. So like, you know, like
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
Oh,
where
I
he's
see.
like
Very
on
cerebral.
another level,
He's very
IQ
cerebral,
wise, than everybody else. Like,
Yeah, that's
he's
why that
5 steps ahead of everybody.
Yeah, the Jeff Bagwell, the home run that he gave up to Jeff Bagwell, like
Eso está
Yeah,
increíble.
where he gave
3
up
months before
a
the
home run
playoffs.
just because he's like,
Right.
we're gonna
Yeah.
see him in the playoffs and he's gonna look
like
for that
willing to
pitch.
be giving that up at that point
that
in the
point, yeah.
season
Like-
because you know it's more important. Like the confidence is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like
he's
that's
a little
next
favorable when
level.
it comes to like the mental game.
And
Yeah.
executing it during the playoffs because he got him out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's, I mean, to me, that's like, there are guys that make careers not at the level. Greg Maddux is the things operating at the
That
extreme.
is
Yikes.
98 out.
Painted with carry on the outside corner.
At this,
But like you can, like hitters, they won't like to admit it, but there's a lot of ways to get hitters out. It's just
With
really
that
hard
movement, like
to
that
make the
little,
baseball
like-
do
Yeah.
what you want it to do with enough confidence to
Tommy Pan.
like repeat that out. Like you know, pitchers know they can live down and away with a fastball, even if it's like an 88 mile an hour fastball. If you could paint down and away, if you could just live there, they might hit you into the ground, but nobody makes a living hitting for power down and away. But guys can't
It's
do
so
that.
much longer of a like stretch you have to do, right? You have to go down and bring it all the way back.
People
up.
think hitting is the hardest thing to do, and it is.
It is,
Hitting
it
is the
is.
hardest thing
It
to
is.
do, and we can get into
Absolutely.
layers why. But that doesn't mean pitching is easy by any stretch. Like the things pitchers have to do, the bucket, the freaking box that you got to put it in from that distance. And anybody who's had issues like with command or like, you know, the little guy and you're talking in your shoulder when you don't find your release point, like that can seem like this really fast. You see all these really bad first pitches of people that go up there thinking that they're going to throw a strike on the first pitch and it just goes a different way on them. And so for like pitching is exceptionally difficult. And to manipulate the baseball at high levels, like those guys that rip 3,000 RPM breaking balls, that they're just like, it looks like you're defying the laws of physics. You're literally, I like baseball because it's so physics driven. You're squaring a round ball with a round bat and like across these like distances and the the things
At high
we're watching
speeds.
it with Sandy, dude.
No,
like,
es que
at high
la
speeds,
pelota es
it's
un
not-
deporte que mientras más tú lo entiendes, más te enamora, bro. Porque tiene tantos detalles y tantas cosas que es impresionante. Eso es lo mejor que tiene el béisbol. Nosotros estuvimos hablando con Héctor Berrios, ¿te acuerdas?
ajá, ya me
Y con
acuerdo esa
Héctor estuvimos
conversación.
hablando de ese picheo, de la esquina
Héctor,
afuera.
el coach de picheo,
El
¿verdad?
coach de picheo, que es coach de Chapman y de otros buenos lanzadores. Una persona que sabe mucho, es súper interesante conversar con él. Y él estaba hablando específicamente de, en ciertos conteos, ese picheo en la esquina de afuera, cuán efectivo es. O sea, por ejemplo, él está hablando que en 0 y 0, por ejemplo, ese picheo, el 90% de los bateadores no le hace swing.
Right.
Y eso él lo tiene en data. No es que él se lo imagina, ¿verdad? Es que él dice, dame
No, y cualquier
Ojo.
bateador.
primer hit de juego, Derek Hill, doblete.
Derek Hill,
Broke it open.
Yeah.
Open the floodgates.
lead off double. That's
No,
big.
y si había un bateador aquí mismo, te diría lo mismo.
Claro.
O sea, yo no, if I'm trying to do damage on a baseball,
Sí.
I'm not picking the fastball
Claro.
down away in the outside
Ese es el
corner
tema.
to go lift that pitch with,
Es que él
with
lo
any
explica.
authority.
Él lo explica muy bien. Él dice, mira, ¿sabes qué? Normalmente cuando tú te enfrentas a pitcher, power pitcher, o sea, pitcher que tiran duro,
Right.
tú, el primer turno at bat es el swing más duro que tú haces. O sea, el primer strike
Right.
es el swing más duro que tú haces. Después, a partir de ahí, tú vas bajando la intensidad del swing para buscar contacto. Eso
Right.
es cierto, ¿verdad? Entonces, generalmente los bateadores están buscando darle poder a ese primer swing que hacen. Y tratan de puliar, lo que decimos en español, bueno, en español.
Alar. Alar la
Sí,
bola.
pero
la
¿por qué,
pelota.
por qué puliar, verdad? Porque
Claro.
usualmente para puliar la bola, like pulling the ball is where most guys are most comfortable. Very few guys feel like the outer half, the middle of the way,
Safe.
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 Let's go.
man.
is like where if I could pick the pitch anywhere to hit it as far as I can, not that many guys are picking middle away. Most of that is like down and in, where you can kind of
Middle
get
in, middle in.
inside.
Claro.
Like
Estás
if you look
buscando
at heat
picheo adentro.
maps, for example, across the league, you'll see that like the big fat heat map is usually closer to like middle, inside, lower, something that you can kind of get under and leverage up. So the opposite of that is down
Exacto.
and away. So it's just
Es interesante. Entonces, ¿qué pasa cuando tú ejecutas ese picheo bien? Porque esa está la otra. Tú quieres tirar el picheo ahí, pero después estás ejecutarlo, ¿verdad?
Right.
Dibujar ese picheo como lo está haciendo Sandy hoy
Right,
es
but-
bien difícil.
like it's all about count leverage. So like you're teasing like, so yeah, I can try to put it down and away, but if I miss a little bit,
Safe again. Let's go.
Big.
if I miss a little bit, now I'm down 1-0 or now I'm down 2-0, and then everything shifts there. Todo cambia con el
Claro,
conteo,
con el
en
conteo.
la pelota. Que
Tú
tú y
tienes,
yo hablamos bastante.
generalmente los pitchers van con un plan para cada bateador
Right.
en cada conteo. Imagínate cuánto tienen que estudiar un pitcher. Lo hablamos con Valente, que es uno de los pitchers más inteligentes que yo he conocido y que he podido conversar con él, y estudia todos los días 1 hora y media, 2 horas del juego que va a enfrentar en la semana
Yeah.
que viene.
¿Qué
Imagínate.
dice el pitcher que está sentado aquí en el sofá?
No,
De
es
todo
verdad,
esto.
completamente cierto. Todo es es un balance en el cual tú tratas de eliminar donde el bateador le hace contacto en el bate a la
How
pelota.
do I miss your barrel?
How do you miss the
This
barrel?
whole thing comes down to how do I get off the barrel, and I think pitchers have turned this into a science.
Y eso
They've
es lo
literally
otro.
made it a science to get off a hitter's barrel, and I don't think the hitters are in the same position to do the same the other way. They can't just like, okay, well, I'm going to adjust to you, and it's this cat and mouse game where they chase each other around the zone. But generally speaking, you paint a strike one down away, because in an 0-0 count, I think we've all been, if you've been hitters, you've been like, you don't want to roll over the first pitch to the second baseman, and you're like a one pitch at bat, you hit a little dribbler to the second baseman, you're like,
Yeah.
yikes. So
But
a lot of guys don't want to swing
Or
0-0.
back to the pitcher.
Seguro. Y es lo que él está hablando de los posibles resultados, ¿verdad? ¿Qué pasa cuando tú ejecutas ese picheo bien?
Right.
¿Entiendes? Tiene
It's the best pitch in baseball.
strike one.
There it is.
Aprendido. Entonces, él dice, mira, ¿sabes qué? Generalmente el bateador pica en dos su zona.
Yeah.
Y por ejemplo, en serie y serie siempre está buscando picheo pegado.
The
So,
good ones do.
lo que generalmente va a pasar es que él va a dejarse cantar ese primer strike, ¿verdad?
Si
Entonces,
no está en su zona
claro,
de...
porque él está buscando picheo pegado. Si
Right.
tú ejecutas en la esquina afuera, strike one.
Right.
Entonces, te está regalando algo, tiene que cogerlo. Luego, si intenta hacer swing, como él está sentado, una pelota adentro, es lo que el ángulo del que tú le das la pelota tiene solo dos resultados posibles, lo más probable, ¿no? Uno es foul ball para la banda contraria,
Right.
tienes strike igual, y el otro, si te das un poquito en tiempo y le das adelante a la pelota, vas a sacar un rolling que eres out y está afuera. Entonces, por eso te digo, ese picheo de strike one en 0 y 0 que lanzar, y ese strike afuera es súper interesante, sobre todo para los pitchers que lanzan duro, que tiran fuerte la recta. Eso es interesante. Es una cosa que yo
If you have a good fastball and you can get strike one with the fastball,
Bro, eso es súper
that's,
off a foul. Pensé que había sido strike.
that's a recipe for success in any sort of
Para
situation.
mí
But
hay tres factores en lo que es cualquier lanzamiento. Velocidad, movimiento y localizar el lanzamiento. Y para mí, yo siempre lo que le digo a todos los muchachos, y bueno, yo anteriormente cuando pichaba era... Antes, cuando no me iba tan bien, trataba de ponchar a todo el mundo. Y entonces, esa filosofía de Sandy, que tú lo ves a él, que llega al séptimo, octavo, noveno inning, ¿por qué es? Por la eficiencia. ¿Cómo tú calculas y ejecutas esa eficiencia? Primero, localizando los lanzamientos. Yo lo que hice normalmente cuando empezaba cualquier turno at bat del primer inning, era localizar esa recta en la esquina de afuera. Y en vez de tirar 4 costuras, tiraba 2 costuras. Claro, porque entonces, si ese bateador entonces me dice, mira, ¿tú sabes qué? Te voy a quitar esa esquina de afuera. Entonces, ¿qué era lo que hacía? Se la movía un poco. Entonces, ahí tratando de siempre buscar la
there's the
manera.
cat and mouse.
Siempre buscar la
Until they
manera.
prove they can cover that, and then a guy clips you for a deep one, you're like, maybe I don't put it there
Ahí es donde
anymore.
viene el ajuste.
Pero es súper
You said
interesante.
something
Es
super-
ajedrez, es ajedrez.
Es súper interesante.
You said something
Por eso
super
lo que digo.
important. First about first pitch strikes. Like if you ever want to evaluate a pitcher, if you're ever doing like matchup based stuff or like got money on games, like look at first pitch strike
Yes,
percentage.
please.
First pitch strike percentage is like a super good indicator. Seems like an obvious thing to say, but like you can dissect it down to like how often and early are you getting to strike one, just like putting yourself in a better spot for the rest of the at bat. And Sandy, to another level, Sandy is really interesting. He's a throwback in the sense that, you know, he's not necessarily chasing tickets or chasing punch outs because he understands that if he
Ahí
does,
hay una.
there it is.
Ahí empezamos, le hicimos una
There it
Kings,
is.
estamos bien. Go. La mayoría de las personas que yo conozco me dijeron, los Marlins no le van a hacer una carrera a Kings. Ahí
There it
tienen,
is.
para que sigan diciendo.
There it is. There it is. But Sandy knows that if he starts chasing tickets and he gets deep into counts, he's going to be at 80 pitches in the 4th inning. And then in nowadays, your manager, everybody's already, that number of 100 is just in everybody's head that like, you get close to that, you got to get pulled out of the game. It's dangerous to be going beyond this. Like, you know, and so in today's day and age, everybody's chasing strikeouts. Strikeouts are where you get paid. But Sandy's a little bit of an interesting throwback, whereas if he can get the ticket, he can get the strikeout, but he knows
When he has to.
right. I want to get deep into a game, and I know that the only way to be at 70 pitches in the 5th inning or something efficient in the 4th or 5th inning is to not chase. To be okay with that ground ball into the guy who can't get this out of the infield right now. He's just not seeing me good, but he can put the bat on it. I'm not just going to chase his bat out of the zone to get the punch out. I'll take the dribbler to third base and I'll take the out in a 15-pitch inning and I'm out. You know?
And you know this better than anybody, having been an executive, right? Most of these guys that are getting deep into outings, most of them are slow throwers, right? You have your guys like Mark Burley, right? Like they were innings eaters. Why? Because they knew from the very beginning that they weren't going to strike out 10 guys in a game, right? So as a team, as an organization, a lot of guys, like fans wise, you're like, oh, that guy, man, he throws too slow. Like we had the conversation in our fantasy chat, like, oh, Nestor Cortez. I'm like, man, that's a hell of a pitcher, right? One, he's a highly guy. He's a South Florida guy.
Sure. Legend of
But the
Dade.
fact that he's able to miss barrels and he understands that, yeah, he's gonna get his strikeouts, right? But man, that's not pitching. Like I feel like the idea of pitching in baseball has moved so far away into
From the
like
art.
all the technology and all of that,
Sure.
where it's really, I think that's what's hurting a lot of teams, right? Because so many guys, you got to dive into the bullpen 4th, 5th inning,
Sure.
and by the end of the year, it's like, how much really are you getting out of it? So that's why guys like, Mark Burley, for example, is a great guy. That guy was an innings eater. That guy was gonna have over 200 innings, just because the fact that he knew that he was gonna get at least into the 6th. He might give up 5-6 runs, right? But he was gonna keep you close.
Y tiró unos hit-no-run.
I see this one both ways because I like the fact that the pitcher can play the chess game of advancing his stuff and turning around his repertoire by just kind of figuring out where there are efficiencies to be had in terms of getting off a barrel. So like I think being able to pitch, period, will always be valuable. But we are in an age where like even as a scout executive, like you go by that radar gun too. Like nobody is like it's not an easy pounding the table of a guy for like he's like, oh, but he's 86, 87. You're like, yeah, but he can really fucking pitch. Like, and that's some guys make that argument, but it's a harder argument to make at 88, 89 than it is at 93, 94. So like I feel like I'm saying both. Right? Like, unfortunately, we're at a place where baseball's so good. Que lo estamos hablando ayer en el pod. Like, we're at the apex of baseball, in my opinion. Like, the problem is we're also running into, like, we're maximizing a lot of, like, the ligament stuff, the arm stuff. We're running into, like, the biological, biomechanical limits of the human body is what I think we're running into. So everybody's talking about this pitching epidemic, injury epidemic. That's a result of, like, okay, now we know how to get the best. We know how to get...
No, Star Wars tiene un gran problema con los ponches, man. El año pasado tuvo más de un 50% de ponches, no, esto es serio. Y este año los dos primeros turnos bate y 2 ponches. Tiene que...
You know what I love is that it bothers you that much.
Yes. No, it's phenomenal.
You get te molesta
it
tanto
feels
en
so
el momento.
good, dude. It's true, Miami. That's the Marlins right there.
I hope that was on camera.
No tire la
I hope that was
cerveza.
on camera.
No tire la cerveza.
Ah, pero le hicimos una carrera.
Yeah, le hicimos una carrera. Yeah.
That's so
So
classic.
now this is the old Sandy adage, like, you know, so now it's the game of like Sandy's like, shit, we got to run. Can I hold this 1-run lead?
Always.
You know, the whole time, and at some point, so now he's like, now I gotta carry this into the 8th. But now you're running into all sorts of things. Like if I'm Peter Bendix, I don't want him in the 8th. Like
What's
No,
his
yeah.
pitch?
What's
What's his pitch
start
limit
out,
today?
it's Tommy John.
Yeah,
What's
you
his
gotta
pitch
get
limit today?
I have no idea. I haven't wanted to
It has
ask
to be
people
under
that
100.
question.
Has to be has to be under 100.
I would say it
It's like
depends.
80-ish.
Yeah,
I
like
would say
80.
80-ish.
Yeah.
Well, if you know Sandy, like he's pushing that to the max of what
Oh,
he could
yeah.
possibly push it, and you try telling him no on anything.
Good luck getting
Like,
him out.
you ever
Good
see
luck
Donnie
getting
when he
him out.
comes up to get him?
Yo no quiero
Or,
ser la
like, back in
persona
those
que va
days?
para allá a decirle a ese tipo que tiene que salir porque tiene 80 picheos.
I hope Donnie doesn't mind saying this, but Donnie would say like, man, when I go to take the ball from him, he looks like he's like he doesn't want to give that ball up. He might be at 120 pitches or whatever, and he doesn't want to give that up. So, like now you gotta, and now Clayton's a first-time manager. It's like, when are you gonna pull this guy from the game? Because I'm sure Sandy has had an opinion on how long he wants to go into this game, and it's probably a less conservative amount than the training staff or the team would want.
Oh, yeah.
Because whatever side of this you fall on, you want to keep him for the long term because he's under extension, you hope you can do something, or if you know he's trade bait, like, or if you know he's like just your most valuable asset and you're not in your winning window.
Depende de lo que reciba a cambio.
Lo que reciba en cambio.
Exacto, porque...
Pero tú lo
tienes que
cambiarías o no?
evaluar. Depende de lo que reciba a cambio.
Ok.
Depende. Boston es un target que hay que mirar. Boston
Ok.
tiene muchos peloteros y ha desarrollado muy bien.
I think they're the best position to be.
Claro,
able to do it.
Boston tiene 3 muchachos, Roman Anthony, Marcelo Mayer y Campbell, que ya están en desliga.
Tienen mucho más que eso, pero esos son los
pero
tres.
esos son el Big Three que ellos
Yeah.
dicen,
They have
¿verdad?
3 guys. The Boston Red
Well,
Sox right now have 3 guys in the top 10 prospects in all of baseball, including the
El
number
top
1 prospect.
10.
Y de eso,
And they're all
y-
position players.
Y de
Like, 3 of them are
esos
position players.
tres, how many would Sandy land you?
A mí me
One,
gusta, a mí, one.
No, you're not going to get 2 of those 3
No,
guys.
no, vas a
I feel
coger.
like the
And
Red
there's
Sox are in a
more to
position
get.
where they could keep
There's
it
more.
going.
They have a really deep system beyond. Those guys get all the notoriety, and rightfully so. But if I'm them, there's no way. It was like, we used to have these discussions back when I was working there about like Betts, Bradley, Swihart, like which were Mookie Betts, Jackie Bradley Jr., Blake Swihart.
I
2
love-
of those names don't
Yo,
sound like
de
the other
verdad.
one, but like they were traveling together in value at that point in time with prospect status. Not all prospects make it, first of all. So you
Yo
can
amo a Sandy Alcantara, bro. Y te lo juro, Elani sabe, Elani me dice cosas. Es mi pitcher favorito del mundo.
I think that's your. If we can get him as a guest, that's your number
man,
one.
Ese es el number one. Y Yuli. Que eso era- pero bueno, Sandy como pitcher es mi pitcher favorito. Pero uno tiene que entender el momento donde está su equipo,
Yeah.
¿verdad? Y qué es lo mejor para el equipo.
Right.
Y por ejemplo, que yo sé que...
So, ¿qué tú harías?
por ejemplo, si a mí me dan a
Si
Anthony...
tú eres Peter Bendix,
si a mí
¿qué
me
tú
dan a
harías?
Roman Anthony, bro, yo lo cambio 1-1 ahora mismo.
Right. I
Uno.
feel like that's the one they'll hold on to. The Red Sox will hold
Uno.
on to the tightest.
Is Tristan a possibility?
So anything feels like it's in play because, to me at least, I think it would be in play. I loved him. I saw him as an amateur here. It's probably one of the Marlins' biggest faux pas recently, where you kind of, I understand why he wasn't selected by the Marlins, but I think that there were a lot of people inside the Marlins that wanted that to be the selection and outside of it because or like in the local community because he was an American heritage kid. Like,
And there's been a lot of trade rumors even the last couple of years with Tristan.
It's interesting because the Marlins at that point, it can come down to the type of player you're hunting in that draft. So at that point in time, they were looking for up the middle, center field capable, shortstop, catcher, which is what you want to live. Like you're the majority of the most valuable players are up the middle of the field, but you still have to like value like who's the best player for your organization at that point in time. And that was more of we're chasing a profile. And in this new athleticism-driven regime, to take a first baseman is kind of like the anti that. Now, it plays out, and Casas is playing.
Got him.
Oh boy. Casas is playing first base for the Red Sox now, and he was right in your backyard. But that's a whole other. We can get into players that have been in the backyard.
There's been a couple of those.
Yeah, including one of your guys' guests.
Yeah.
Two of your guys' guests. You had Lewis Brinson on here the other day, and you had Zach Neto.
No, fue safe.
You had Zach Neto on earlier too. Zach Neto's a great story,
Would
man.
you take Tristan and Cespedes for Sandy?
Yoelqui Céspedes?
Yeah.
No, not Yoelqui. ¿Cómo se llama? El Céspedes de
The
Red Sox. Red Sox system. They have a Céspedes.
No?
Es lo que te digo, bro.
No way.
Uno, o sea, entiende que como fanático de los Marlins, nosotros hemos entregado muchas estrellas a cambio de jugadores que por diferentes razones no han llegado a lo que se esperaba de ellos.
Okay.
Right? Ha pasado con el cambio
Pero
de
pasa
Santos.
con otros equipos, ¿verdad?
Sí, por supuesto.
Pero uno siempre le duele el suyo, ¿no?
Right. No, I'm not going to argue. The track record is rough.
Pero
Exacto. En los últimos
track
años,
record is
más
rough.
allá del
That's
cambio.
more like prospects will break your
Yo
heart.
lo digo sencillo,
Kind of
más allá del
argument.
cambio de donde tuvimos a Sandy Alcantara y Zach Gallen, ¿verdad? Que entregamos un tremendo pelotero,
Right.
¿ok? No. ¿Qué otro cambio en los últimos años podemos decir, mira, esto está bueno?
Sí, pero por el de Gallen recibimos a Jazz,
Pero eso lo estoy
which is a
diciendo.
good.
Pero lo que quiero decir es un cambio donde nosotros seamos los ganadores. Por ejemplo, ¿qué puede ser un ejemplo que te pongo? Matt Mervis este año a 30 jonrones y yo digo, ok, fuimos los ganadores en este cambio, entramos a Bruján y cogimos 30 jonrones. Pero generalmente somos los perdedores en los cambios, o igual. Porque cogimos a Luis Arraez, pero entregamos a Pablo López. ¿Entiendes?
Right.
Eso es muy
Okay.
Y terminamos
Right.
perdiendo a Rae de todas maneras.
¿A cambio de quién? Entonces,
That's different because that's an immediate value for an immediate value situation.
Yeah.
Trades don't always work that way.
Yeah.
Trades, it's like there's a delayed gratification component that you're just supposed to make your fans kind of accept. So, for example, Jesus Luzardo to the Phillies for Starlin Caba, who's an A-ball prospect. You're not trading present value for present value because Jesus Luzardo has 2 years of control, and you're like, it's one of the best. Like, and you traded him in the division. That one's gonna hurt bad.
For
Like,
pero ¿cuál es el
he's
momento?
gonna win 3 games against you, and like he's
pero
gonna
lo que digo
like,
es, ¿cuál
feel
es el
like
momento?
you guys traded me away. Like, but hold on. Let me
Yeah.
get to the end of that because, like, that hurts. That's like value going away that your own fan base sees going away, playing against you, kicking your ass, and this guy's maybe gotten to high A ball or double A. The guy that you traded him for.
Yeah, it's
and that
delayed-
justification is hard.
It's delayed
really hard,
gratification.
man.
As long as it pays off, it's still delayed gratification, but it has to pay off.
Pero
¿Tú
¿cuál
sabes
es el
cuál es el-
momento en
cuál es
que
uno de esos?
It's a
evaluamos?
fair barrier, but it's like, well, I guess what I'm highlighting is it's like, you said like, oh no, Yoelqui Céspedes, no, I wouldn't do that deal, but you haven't seen those players, right? It's like you're leaning on a Baseball America ranking or wherever ranking to tell you like, oh, that doesn't. But that guy in those deals is, I don't know, we could go on this list of guys that have been traded early in their career that go on to be impactful, but like Acuna, for example, is a $100,000 player that at one point,
Tatis.
but at one point he's like the Tatis. Fernando Tatis is a great
Tatis is
example,
one example.
right? Where like he's
Yeah.
at the time you don't understand what's happening. He had just played, or he didn't even play in the Dominican Summer League, but he's like you just got the player. So first of all, that means that the team, like San Diego, who got him, they probably missed out on him or came up second as an amateur.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, the White Sox. I think it was the White Sox, right?
White Sox.
Yeah.
Right. So White Sox ended up signing him. But that tells me that the Padres guys who didn't end up signing him liked him a lot to
From
be
the
like, okay,
beginning, yeah.
hey, whenever you match up with the White Sox, you have to ask for Fernando Tatis.
Yeah.
We liked him. We couldn't get him. We came up short, but our process was good there. And then they sniped him out of they include him in a deal in a package early. I think it was James Shields, right? Yeah, James Shields. You know, actually, we'll get into you in a second. But James Shields, which was present major league value to your major league roster. So if you're on the other side of that deal, you're like, if you're the White Sox, for example, in that moment, they felt they needed James Shields, a kid that like just signed out of the Dominican Republic, like maybe that won't hurt me, but it'll hurt me later. But in this case, it hurt you big.
Yeah,
So,
Adrian,
and
but
a lot of
El
trades
tema es
happen
que lo
like
veo
that.
yo. Cuando tú cambias por un prospecto, tú no evalúas el prospecto inmediatamente.
No.
Tú lo evalúas en el tiempo.
Right.
Right. Yo me siento en este momento en condiciones de evaluar el cambio de Yelich.
De
¿verdad?
Yelich.
Porque
Okay.
ha pasado tiempo.
Yeah,
y
we
hemos
can-
visto
we
a
can
dónde
evaluate
llegó
it
Yamamoto se llama, no.
Jordan Yamamoto.
Jordan Yamamoto, a dónde llegó los
Yeah,
demás.
Jordan.
¿Verdad? No quiero. Pero
We can talk about that.
básicamente, nosotros hemos hablado mucho de eso.
Yeah.
Básicamente, ahora es un momento para evaluarlo. El cambio de Luzardo con Starling Cava, tú no puedes evaluarlo ahora. Tú tienes que darle un momento.
Pero todo el mundo lo va
Yeah,
a
you're
evaluar ahora.
Yeah, sure.
But
So-
if you're trading for prospects, you're looking for projectability. You're looking for how likely is it for this guy to grow into an asset that's going to give me more of a return
For
than
sure.
the one that I just traded
For sure.
away. And historically speaking, how often has the Marlins organization been able to hit on a James Shields for Tatis Jr.? You get
Exactly.
me?
And I
There's
think
not
that's the
examples,
problem
yeah.
with the organization is that, and the fans, is that so many times in recent history we've had multiple trades played out and not gone our way at the end of it. And
Yeah, so if you would let me get to it, Albert, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself too. But I was envisioning you. I could see you on the other side, like just like no, bro. It's like this. It's like wanting to get in on this Marlins discussion. So
Yeah,
I'll let
I
you
mean,
at this point.
it's-
One of my my brother who's sitting in the stands right now is one of my brother's very good friends. He's one of my very good friends, but just I don't know. You're in on every detail of the Marlins, and so you'll know all these.
sure, I've been
Yeah.
a
Albert and I, everybody.
loyal fan for a while. It's hard, but hopefully they can turn it
Understatement of
around
the
quick.
year.
Yeah.
Official
Understatement.
part of Marlins Twitter. He's like in the.
I
You know,
am.
he's in there with the rest.
I'm in the
of them.
trenches.
There
I'm in
you
the
are.
trenches with all the other fans that are slowly trying to become optimistic again, and trying
Where's
to
your
see if this-
optimism level right now?
I would say like 4 out of 10, maybe 3 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
So which trade did you want to comment on?
No, I mean all of the trades that we've done, the Yelich trade, like you were saying. I mean, that one played out. We have one of those prospects is playing college football now. The other one is I think a coach for high school
High
baseball.
school.
Hey, we don't bash players here though. So like
I'm not
they're
I'm not
good
trying to.
guys
I'm just
in
saying.
their
I'm just
own
saying
right.
that
Yeah, I hear
in
you.
the perspective of the fans, you see those trades play out, and then when we trade for Cava, and you're like, okay, maybe that plays out, but burn me once, burn me twice. Like we just traded Luzardo, a hometown guy, and people can have their opinions on it. Maybe Luzardo gets hurt, maybe something happens. You never know. But right now, I don't think anybody is kind of expecting Cava to become a product on the field that will get the fan base going like Luzardo did, right?
Gotcha.
So that's where that pessimism comes from,
Right.
Based on past trades too.
Right.
So
I
El
think there's some,
pesimismo viene
there's some
de 100 veces.
All right. I need your guys' help with this.
I think there's some pessimism when it comes to the Marlins being able to develop players, right? I think that
Okay.
guys that are closer are fine, but just putting them through the system, I just feel like either they fizzle out, whether again, I don't want to name any names, but it just somewhat feels like the guys that are not ready to be at the big league level, they kind of just, I don't know, they just don't become the prospects that we expect them to be when the time of the trade happens. That's just, again, from a Marlins fan perspective, that's kind of how I feel
And
about
I
it.
feel like that's a fair assessment. G, do you have something too?
I just feel like if you're an organization, you have to take into consideration how long it's been since you've had a winning product on the field, and that's something that I feel like, it's.
What's a
it's
winning
kinda-
product though? So let's
Like-
categorize that. Do you feel like that's a playoff team, or like if you're not winning the World Series, it's not worth
a
doing?
team-
Kind of thing?
To me, it's where you have to signal to the fans, even if it's the casual fan, right? Like, that you're serious about winning now. Like you have to, even though you have to do it the right way. You have to
Right.
build from within. You have to build your system.
Yeah.
Like you do have to take at least some consideration into how many years it's been since you've spent money in this case, or really had it where we're the ones trading for Luzardo, right?
Right.
That's not taken into consideration, I guess, at all. Which you can make an argument that you shouldn't, but from my perspective and from the casual fan, that your consumer that's gonna go out and support the team,
Yeah.
you have to take that into consideration. Dude.
I subscribe to this theory as well, that like you should never be in like a down year in terms of attempting to win Major League Baseball games. Like you should never be in a position where you're not trying to win every game possible. I feel like that's this thing that you're in control of is a public trust, right? Like you have the hopes and dreams of a lot of people in the community here that like live and breathe with this thing, and they have literal emotions connected to when they're doing good and bad. So I feel like it's really hard to stomach as the average fan or viewer that like, well, we're just not in our winning cycle right now. Therefore, like we're saving our bullets for when we're in that cycle, and then we'll make the push. That's hard to get behind. But it's like other teams have put an example in front of you that's like, oh, like the Rays, the Orioles, for example.
The Astros, the Cubs.
Yeah. Right, like they've put examples in front of you that are like, okay, these are efficient processes. And so what happens, like, that process is now trying to be replicated by, like, when the Marlins have an open GM position, where did they go? Like, where did they decide on? The Tampa Bay Rays, Peter Bendix, who comes from the Rays, they're deciding on this very efficient, low payroll, high efficiency thing. But, like, yeah, Tampa started those processes 15 years ago. You don't benefit from that, from a lot of the implementing of those things until later. So this is a long game. So, and I'll say that if you build your team nowadays, like as a sprint to the bottom type, like sprint to the worst record, you could do that. The Marlins had the, second worst record, third worst record last year? They ended up with the 7th overall pick. So, like, there isn't even a direct correlation anymore that if you have the worst record, you also get the best pick and therefore rebuild your team quicker. Like, you can lose 100 games, get the number 7 overall pick, and really, there's good picks to be had there. There's a lot of traditional good picks. I don't want to bash that, but, like, the first 3 picks is, like, the difference between, I remember in 2019, if I'm getting this right, it was like Adley Rutschman, Bobby Witt, and then Andrew Vaughn, and then Blade, right? I remember when we were in that, and I love JJ Blade. I'm glad he's making the Marlins, like, I like players that go out and kind of like prove
Succeed.
it, you know, like, oh, you traded me away and he's establishing value now, so I like that. But like the drop off from like the separation between even Vaughn and Witt can be like, there's not usually 5 game-changing players stacked at the top of the draft that everybody's identified as such. That's usually like within those first 3 picks. So once you get outside, it's kind of like basketball, it feels like to me. You get outside of that Cooper Flag territory, it's like, it's not that they're not good players, you just fall into another tier. And so my point is, like, you can lose 100 games thinking like, okay, we gotta, like, we're rebuild through the draft, and then you get the 7th pick and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, pero en ese draft tú también tenías a Corbin Carroll. Tú tenías a otros jugadores que tenía pick 16. ¿Entiendes?
There's gems.
Of course.
Yeah, in
Miami,
different
por ejemplo,
spots.
JJ Bleday. No tuvieron paciencia con JJ Bleday. JJ Bleday maybe
¿No
mañana.
tuvieron paciencia?
Claro que no. Le dieron 30 turnos bate en Grandes Ligas y lo soltaron. O sea, un muchacho que cogiste un pick 4 que para Cosmo tenía tremendo talento, todo el mundo lo sabía, y de los bateadores en su momento era el mejor bate de los prospectos que tú tenías. So, ¿por qué no le diste la oportunidad de coger una temporada en Grandes Ligas?
We can talk about this a lot, because if you zoom back this argument, there's a lot of people in JJ Bladay's debut time where, like, he's like, okay, no, he's not ready for the big leagues. Like, this is not a good player for us. You start to give up. Like, you just, and if you need to win now and he's struggling in his debut to the big leagues, those 2 things don't go with each other. So, like, he makes himself, I don't want to say tradable, because in that situation he brought Puck, who gets you to, JJ Bleday was traded for AJ Puck,
Davison
right?
de los Santos.
Right, which then turns into Davison de los Santos now. But in that
Victor, que
moment,
también me gusta mucho también.
in that moment, a 7th inning shutout
me
lefty,
gusta de
because
los
you're
Santos.
going for it, at that moment is more valuable to try to see out than, or try to get, than the prospect that has struggled. Even though you took him with your 4th overall pick, he was your best offensive prospect at that point. But he wasn't putting up numbers that justified, like, you got to
Adrian.
keep this guy at all costs.
Adrian,
It goes
I'm
back to
sorry.
what you were talking.
This guy's just absolutely dealing. Sandy is.
Yeah, he's on right now. dude.
Sandy
I
is.
saw a sinker.
I
Yeah,
mean,
back to
this
the
guy
game,
is-
right?
Good luck
Shit.
touching it.
¿Tuviste esa sinker como se ve?
Jesus.
Wow.
This
But
guy
it
is.
goes back to what you were saying. Like, that's the beauty of having a season like this, where there's not really expectations of winning a playoff game. Whereas during the JJ Bleday time, you still had a hope that you were going to get to the playoffs and win some games.
Yeah.
So now it's
And
like,
they
if you
did,
want to
right?
look at it from that perspective, like, these guys have a chance to, like, play it out. Like Stowers,
All right.
right?
This is-
Norby, these guys.
Guys, yo quiero hacer una pregunta. So, Sandy Alcantara está tirando ahora mismo no hit no run. ¿Quién es el que le va a decir que va a salir como
Pero,
80
papá,
picheos?
no, eso no se dice, Robert.
bro.
Eso no se
Yo quiero decir,
dice.
¿quién es el que le va a decir, bro, mira, vienes de una cirugía de tomillón,
No, but
tienes que sentarte con 80 picheos?
I think it's great to watch the drama happen, and there's no volume, but like you can tell. Like I think you'd rather have the chance of
No.
What's he at pitch count wise?
No.
71.
He's at 71.
They're gonna leave him one more.
He's got one.
He's
more
gotta go
inning.
6.
He's got one more inning, and then they're gonna
Yeah.
talk to him.
6 is probably it.
They're
I mean, he's dialed in.
That's
Bro.
right. They're gonna talk to him.
But
Now let's see how
They're
he-
gonna talk to him.
Wait,
The
is this-
definition of doing what you want.
Is this
I'm
an
not-
immaculate inning in the making?
No, I think he has
No?
one pitch too many.
You can't talk about those things as they're
I know,
happening.
but yeah, he said the no.
I mean, get out of here, bro. Like,
So it's interesting. He's going to like four seamers as well. So he's mixing both. He's traditionally like a sinker guy, but when he's trying to get swing and miss up in the zone, like it's just a more advantageous pitch.
But his
to get
changeup
entry miss.
today
he's
is
going in the dirt. He's going in the
dancing.
dirt here.
What's up?
Oh, he went high.
Yeah, I think for him, he's a sinker dominant pitcher for sure. And I think one of the things people didn't realize that he wins the Cy Young as an elite year, and then like has a down year the next year, but we went from having a shift to not having a shift. And that was like a big, people didn't realize the flip in Sandy, like he wasn't less effective, he just,
Yeah, there. Attaboy, Robert. Attaboy, Robert. Attaboy, Robert. Boo.
Yo estoy seguro. Mira, en serio, yo estoy seguro que Clayton McCullough ahora mismo hizo. Ya le puedo
Ahora
decir
lo
que-
puede quitar.
Ya lo puedo quitar.
Ahora lo puede quitar.
thanks for ruining something special, you know?
Sobre todo cuando tú lo dices.
That's it. Se controló, people.
That's too funny. All right, so now everybody, we watch it a little more casually, I guess.
Yeah.
Because we were on no-hitter alert, now that we can talk about it. Nah, he's a beast.
Got him. No way.
So how do the
Great
how-
jump.
like I'm curious as to how these like have you guys seen in the minor leagues and spring training they were doing like the challenging of the like
Yeah,
automatic balls
the
and
strike
strikes?
zone.
Yeah. It's not on here. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying when it comes, that play right there where the catcher is in the middle of it and like there's a play at the end, like you throw a guy out. Can you imagine challenging and it was like a
strike?
it was like a strike or like it ended the at bat as a result of that through the challenge. I think it's gonna like flip the way we watch baseball a little bit.
Where that would be interesting, which I never thought of until you just brought it up, is those 3-2 counts where there's a walk, it's a ball, they throw it down, the play kind of dies, no one tries anymore, and then it's like, wait, now what are we gonna do? Like, okay, he threw him out, but he also struck him out. Like, then I guess you just have to
You gotta
revert
play it-
back to
yeah.
the strikeout and then bring the guy back to first.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
It seems like
interesting
we're
there.
doing this silly thing, and I don't want to like. I want to be careful to say like, oh, let's just do an automatic balls and strikes because there's like an umpires union, there's umpires. Like you make these decisions, and there are all these like people that are there that just get marginalized. So I don't love that, but it feels like we're doing this obvious thing of like, well, if there's a challenge, then we have the ability right now to in real time at the stadium. You'll see like the strike. It'll tell you 99 sinker and exactly where it was in the strike zone. So like we're already doing like we have this thing, but like this guy is standing back there like.
But
there's
imagine
a subjective component.
Imagine all these catchers working so hard since they were little kids,
Right.
framing,
Yeah.
and all of a
Right.
sudden you get to the big leagues and it's like
Yep.
tap on the head. All that work you
Sure.
put in, it's no longer there.
I hear
That's
you,
why I think
but
that
I see
they're-
it the other way too. I see it the other way as like more offensive players because I'm with you, framing and receiving and presentation. It's fundamentally based on your ability to deceive the umpire, the subjective entity, and his vision or whatever. You're trying to just like make it look like a strike, which I appreciate. Catchers right now, everybody has a move from under the baseball to try to make sure they present it cleanly. But what I think has happened is like it's specialized to catcher being like there's not as much offense to be stacked or found at the catcher position. And I think now when you don't make receiving the fundamental thing that they have to worry about, it opens up this other like the offensive catchers again.
So the Kyle
Because now you
Schwarbers?
just gotta like the strike zone's gonna call it a strike. Whether you box it or you like pitchers will always like the guy who freaking pops it clean
I
and
think
like
that human element has to be for like the old school fan. I think it always has to be present, whether it's now or 20 years from now.
I'm in agreement.
I feel like we still have to have that human
There- there
element
ha-
of, you know, the look of it, the umpire, the.
There's still
you
plays
know,
at the plate.
There's also
still subjective
there's also
plays.
a lot of plays
You
that-
still
that
have to
don't-
block.
that don't include the balls.
But
Yeah, you still have to block the
something that
90
will
mile per hour
shift.
splitter in the dirt with men on third and second. You still have to block it to prevent the runners from
or
from
Johan
advancing and
Duran's
scoring.
100 mile per hour.
It's
splinter.
really simple. The game wouldn't change at all. It would just be something in the umpire's ear that as soon as they cross the plate, strike, ball, and he can still make the call. He can still. It's just taking. It's like. It's weird because like you want the human elements to stay, but there are things that seem to just like, hey, we're there already. Like all
Junior,
the components are here.
can
Or
we
the
get-
um-
can we
or
get a
knowing
poll?
the
Can we get a
umpire that's
Poll
behind
on,
the plate.
on old school or new school baseball fans out there, man.
Come on.
Yeah, man.
poll
Like
of, like,
who wants
do you want-
Who wants
do you want
robot
automated
umps?
balls and strikes
robots?
for
Who
that?
does it?
Robot umpires.
You might get taken out
I
before
think
the
I think
game's
this
over.
inning is a prime example of what you were saying with the 1-0 game. Sandy's here trying really hard not to mess it up.
Yeah.
He's trying to get out of the inning because he doesn't get the run support, and he's starting to be more tedious and more, you know, he's trying to pick the corners instead of just going with his stuff. And here we go,
I
probably
told you this was the last inning.
almost taking him out. But
You're
I feel
right.
like this is like
You're right.
I
I'm
love
a
watching the
little
body
tough.
language.
This is
here.
the
When I'm
last
watching
batter
this
thing.
happen,
But
I'm
just
like,
remember, you were right because of him.
Yeah.
Guys, imagínate tú.
I'm all in on the
yo-
body language.
Me siento mal conmigo mismo. ¿no? Es más, quiero- Mira, yo sí quiero decir que la forma en que lo implementaron esto del checking de los strikes y las bolas en sprint training, ahí me gustó mucho. Porque te da dos opciones, ¿verdad? Tú fallaste las dos opciones, ya no tienes más. Entonces, se mantiene el trabajo de los árbitros y se mantiene también el hecho de que el framing, tratar de engañar a todos. Ahora tienes que engañar hasta el propio bateador, tú sabes. Y yo no creo que si lo mantienen así, que tú puedes reclamar solo dos pelotas, no es como automáticamente va a decir si es bola o si es strike. Es como que tú puedes reclamar, tienes dos veces para fallar en el juego. O sea, los jugadores se lo piensan bien para pedirlo, porque yo no puedo dejar temprano en el juego a mi equipo sin opciones de reclamar un strike en una bola, porque eso te puede ser algo importante al final. Yo no puedo reclamar por ejemplo, en un momento donde haya dos, perdón, estaba viendo el juego, un momento donde haya dos outs y bases limpias, estoy reclamando, ok, maybe tengo la razón, pero y si la pierdo, estoy regalando, ¿por qué? Por llegar a primera con dos outs. Entonces, maybe también no se pierde del todo el framing, o no se pierde, porque es hacer algo muy estratégico en el momento en el cual tú vas a gastar esa oportunidad de reclamar un strike, una bola, ¿entiendes? Tú no quieres que llegue el octavo inning y tú buscando una carrera y tengas una bola para reclamar y en ese momento no tengas opciones, ¿entiendes? Eso es interesante también verlo. No es que se va a perder el framing, pienso yo, si lo implementan como lo hicieron en el sprint training.
A mí lo más impresionante es un lanzador tirando 100 millas por hora y que una décima fuera de la zona de strike y que el bateador sepa exactamente dónde fue que pasó y tener ese conocimiento es impresionante.
Por un cuarto de milímetro.
Juan Soto es el caballo en eso.
A Ray también.
3-1, bases loaded.
Ah, ya.
You got it? No, perdimos.
Coño, Robert.
Put him in the penalty box.
There goes the lead.
I think it's hard enough to catch pitches as it is, especially 99 to 100. I think trying to like also present it cleanly. I think it like what we don't talk about is like when you get it clean, but then like the pitcher that like a ball goes back and 2 runs score because it gets by you because you were trying to like catch it cleanly instead of just catch it. That happens often too. Or guys that go to like a one knee approach so that they can present the ball better from one knee, catchers, only to like not be able to get into the blocking position quick enough. Ball gets by and like you're trying to get the strike, but okay, it came at the expense of the run. So like I think I'm a big fan of stuffing more athleticism into the position than like a specialty skill set, which is what you do. You put a specialty skill set, which is receiving, at a premium. Now, the industry has corrected to that premium. So now there's a whole wave of catchers that have been trained in how to do this. But it's all contingent on this ABS thing. Because the moment that flips over, and now it's more of a catch and throw position, than a receive. Like, and receiving is like a.
It's an art.
It's an art. It's a skill. It's I don't know. It's like this thing that feels like we're working on as like a specialty subsect that I'd rather like have a guy who's like athletic and can really hit in that catcher spot than deferring to the best receiver. Yep. All due respect to receivers, but
yeah. But let me ask you this: you're the GM. Wouldn't you want to have your most athletic guys out on the field instead of being peppered behind the plate for 150 games or 140 games?
It's a good question.
Because the athletic guys, I'm going to safely assume you're also taking into consideration their ability to hit.
Right. But there's a lot of guys that get
and
ruled out.
That takes a toll.
Physically, yes. But there's a lot of guys that get ruled out of the position because they can't receive the baseball well.
Properly.
That are still good baseball players, good athletic baseball players.
Schwarber.
That get forced out of the position, you know, and I think that doesn't make as much sense to. I'd rather see, like the Schwarber stay at catcher, to give that example, and then run with that, to let that person, like that profile, still exist in that position. Whereas right now, like you're going to insert super receiver name here as catcher number 2 on your roster instead of packing the offense into a second catcher. You know, it's like you're making these decisions, and I lean on the side of more offense in a lineup. As Robby Ramos.
The old curveball. Let's talk about my old school baseball days, dude.
Yes,
Had a crazy
please,
curveball. No speed on my fastball, though. And I was a righty, so.
Here we are.
Not much happened with that. But I do want to introduce here shortly. We got the Heron Heads guys
they just
coming
popped in?
Yep.
Nice.
That's how you say it, Heron?
Yes.
I don't really know shit about.
I thought it was an ibis.
Huh?
You know, but it's a heron.
I guess it's
not
a
the
heron.
same thing, are they?
No.
Ibis
Son,
and heron?
son primo.
Son
Yo
primo?
creía que
Primo
eran
hermano.
flamingo.
Yeah.
Like a flamingo. I thought that was.
Yeah.
But they're not.
But heron heads.
What the fuck is a heron?
Heron is a bird.
The hair,
Un
the
pájaro.
herons are-
I
the
get that it's un
resident- the resident
pájaro.
vet
Un pájaro.
will
Is it the
chime in here.
mascot? Is the mascot?
The
of
ibis,
the-
the ibis is a mascot for the Hurricanes.
right, but
But
for
the
Inter.
hair for
Inter.
for Inter,
Yeah,
yeah.
because Heron Heads is an Inter Miami podcast that already
Yeah,
exists.
I think
that
they're
we wanted
herons,
to
yeah.
talk through. So
¿Cómo
that's
se
what
dice
we're
eso en
talking about.
español?
Yeah. We'll bring them in now. ¿Qué cosa?
Ese animal en español, ¿cómo se dice?
Flamingo.
Flamingo.
Ah, ¿viste? I know something, dude. Pero heron.
Ahorita digo otra cosa.
¿Eh? Flamingo en inglés, flamingo también, right? Flamingo.
Bueno,
Well, flamingos, yeah, it's a whole other thing.
But I think
Really?
everybody thought when the logo came out that they were flamingos.
I just
Because
found
of
out.
But it's a
today.
Because
heron.
it's a heron, but
Okay.
because of the color.
Circles all the way back to the
Yeah,
name.
but because of the color, everybody thought that they were flamingos initially.
Got it.
Because it was the
What's
pink.
up,
yeah.
guys? Welcome.
Boys, come in, dude. Come in. We wanna talk about heron heads and flamingos.
we want to talk about herons, please.
Oye, el daño limitado.
Hector, you're next over
Buen
there.
relevo. Le dejamos 2 carreras por suerte a los Piratas.
Come in, dog.
Come in, guys. Put you right on the spot. What's up, guys?
What's up, man?
Albert.
Giancarlo.
Nice to meet you.
Roby, bro.
Albert.
We're all meeting on camera for the first time. How you
I
doing?
feel like I know you guys from the episodes. Oh, really? Cool, yeah, for sure, man. Welcome.
No. Come in. Roby, siéntate en el de el co-host de.
Oh.
All right, guys. Here, I'm gonna pass you the mic.
put
You
him
just
right
start
in the
talking,
fire.
okay? But like, I want like a monologue. I want the whole thing in here, right? You guys are I'm putting you on blast. No, man, we're happy you guys are here. David has spoken to us quite a bit about you guys. We've seen the pod, which you guys do live, right? It's impressive. So yeah, man, we're happy to have you guys in, and if you want to introduce a little bit about the podcast, we were just talking about, is a flamingo a heron or no?
Different species of birds.
He's our resident ornithologist over here.
Different species of birds. Flamingo, totally pink. Heron is actually a gray heron that Inter Miami has, so they're not pink.
I'm colorblind, so
Exactly.
that solves the issue with me.
You know,
Yeah,
that's actually one of the biggest questions that I see on social media. Is it actually pink? It's not. It's a gray heron. So. Fun fact of the day.
He gets the same question on his OnlyFans.
gotta subscribe to that.
That's for the late night, you know.
So what's the genesis of the pod? Like, what was the organizing idea? You guys just liked Inter, and
I mean,
was it Inter driven?
Yeah, we've always liked Inter, and then Messi joined, and there was way more hype than ever, and there really wasn't any content out there. So we're like, let's just do it ourselves. We'd always kind of toyed around with the idea of putting a microphone in front of one of the hosts, Jose, because he's always saying crazy stuff, and it felt like the perfect opportunity. We always love just getting into all the content after games, and there was just nothing for Inter Miami, so we said, let's just do it ourselves, and it's been almost 2 years.
Love that.
Yeah. I'm sure you guys have. Oh, sorry. I'm sure you guys have WhatsApps and different group chats with all your friends talk about sports, and that's what we had. And we're like, hey, let's just do it. Like you said,
putting the WhatsApp chat forward facing to.
That's right. That's right. My wife always said, why don't you guys just talk about it on the camera? Because you guys are always on Xbox playing FIFA, whatever.
Like, this conversation is happening anyway.
Yeah,
exactly.
Might as well put it on the camera.
Right.
I think about have some fun with it. So.
I think about my brother and Albert, the text threads, all you guys are on but it's like every iteration. It's like the Dolphin season, you're in that thread. The other one, you're in this thread, and so 100%. You guys seem to be in some of these threads. So I feel like it's as good a time as any, or as like soccer or football in Miami is like feels like it's never been in this place where it's this relevant culturally, or like with a team that's Messi is the obvious standout, but it feels like there's an energy around the organization, especially with this upcoming stadium here, that it feels like you guys are doing this and hitting this at the right time, because it's like kind of it's not even at the top of what it's going to be, because I think the World Cup and the stadium when it's here, all of that, I feel like we're going to feel that in a little bit, but you guys seem to be out kind of like building momentum out in front of it, because you guys have a seemingly rabid community, and people that are you've built a really interesting, cool following, and I congratulate you guys for that, man.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, and we know.
Is he also on the show?
Yeah, this is Jose, the one that we wanted to put a microphone in front of.
This is the guy we wanted
to put you right on the spot. What's up, man, Adrian?
Yeah, I'll give the microphone to him. Hot mic.
And we the other thing, Miami.
I had to get off that couch because it would have been a disaster.
You just
brother.
put them on the spot like
that?
that?
Need what?
Just gonna throw them right into the fire?
Yeah, we have to, bro. That's the only way.
I mean, you guys are clearly comfortable on camera, right? Because
we do.
You guys, how many episodes deep now?
Whoa, I lost count. Jeez,
that's good.
We used to do it initially.
Yeah, 150, getting to 200.
I respect that so much, man. We talk about getting reps in here all the time. And then you feel your way through. If you guys can remember the first few episodes, I'm sure they're not as smooth as they are right now. You know.
Once in a while, I go back and just for fun, I look at our first, 2-3 episodes, and it's like, that was rough.
We used to have the little behind us, the little pink background.
Okay.
he created a.
We used Zoom to start off, right? And that was a disaster because that's not like a great video recording platform. It's good for meetings and stuff, but it's not good for podcasting necessarily.
I'm glad you commented on that, because I feel like it's a thing that gets blown past when you're talking about putting a podcast together, which I'm gaining a much deeper appreciation for now. The production side, everything else going on, to be able to put forward a quality product, which is not a straightforward thing, right? No. That's like a team of people, and things that you have to be mindful of, including all sorts of things, but lighting first and foremost, just the quality of the camera, audio, the quality of your upload speed, download speed, all these things that you kind of got to factor in. If not, you're not going to have a good product for anybody.
It's really easy to get started. Yeah. It's hard to get to a point where you're very happy with the end product, because anyone can just turn on any camera, a cell phone, and just go live. But for it to be an engaging set of content and something that looks good and intentional, that requires constant learning and constant perfecting, because it's never perfect.
You guys are gaining traction though, man. Each one of your videos has over 1,000 views, and you're putting out. Is it daily or weekly, or how do you guys do it right now?
We try to do weekly. Usually we do a pregame, so kind of like a preview. Actually, we're doing one tonight. We do a preview to whatever team we're playing against that weekend, and then immediately after the match, we go live again, and we do a reaction.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your wives hate you guys, huh?
You guys we all have wives. We have kids.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
So we do it late. We do it late because
kids.
Yeah,
Who's gonna do it later?
I love it,
earlier,
man.
so.
I'm picturing like the little things that happen when you're like trying to justify like going on an episode live. You know, where you're like you have all these things on, but like, hey, you know, this
Gotta
we
work.
gotta get this on.
They didn't score any goals today.
Yeah.
Like I have to go on.
I
And,
feel like Amanda will giggle because there's all of these justifications. I'm like, no, but we got to do this episode.
The best
you know?
is
We
like
gotta, it's this is why it's important.
It's
But-
like 7 o'clock, bath time for the kids. Everyone's running around. It's like the game's starting right now. I really got to sit down and just watch this. It's for work.
dude.
It's for work. I think we're very relatable in that sense, right? Like, because we are all dads, like
Right.
all four of us.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is that what's funny is that like you said that your wives hate us, but to be honest, I think they're kind of relieved. They're like, "Thank God, you know."
That's
yeah,
true
I
too,
get
dude.
my-
They're
my
like, yeah,
time.
go watch
They could go
whatever.
read their book. or
Yeah,
something, you know?
And you watch The Crown or something, you know. Just whatever.
Watch The Crown, dude. Heels on Netflix, bro. You guys gotta
Heels
watch
on
that,
Netflix.
dude.
Which,
I don't know
speaking
if
of
you
which,
guys heard. Yeah. It's a very,
Hold on,
very
dude.
badass show on Netflix.
we
bro.
introduced I'm glad we introduced you guys, but you went
No,
without
no,
an intro.
no,
You just
no. We don't
popped in,
have
you
to. I just
decided,
wanted to throw that little plug in.
But that's what
It's
I'm
just a
saying.
show
You
I
put
love
the
watching.
plug in, so you open that door.
No. I
You know,
love
no,
watching
you don't
that
get to
show.
that?
It's got the dynamic between that show, dude.
Heels on Netflix, Duster coming on HBO.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. That one's
Yeah,
badass too.
I heard about that one.
So
too.
You
is there
watched
is
Heels,
there an
no?
inside scoop on another season or?
I don't know, dude. That's for
secret,
another. Yeah. That's for another pod. But
Yeah.
you watched it, no? You watched Heels. You dug it?
Yeah.
Right on,
I
bro.
wanted another season. That's
What
why.
other
hell
what
yeah,
other
dude.
answer does he have now? You know,
Huh?
he's gonna be like, nah, I hate it, dude. Like, you suck.
I don't know, man.
No, I really liked it. I really liked
Yeah.
it. I started watching it because of Stephen Amell, and I watched Arrow multiple times, and I was like, oh, let me check this out, you know, like.
Yeah.
And then that's where I saw you, and then I started seeing you in Adrian's videos, and I was like, hey, like.
This guy.
And then yeah,
Nice.
so.
Yeah. Anyways,
Roby wears so many hats and is an incredibly talented artist, and we'll get to that point later. But we'll jump back into these guys.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I see where you're going with it. though.
yeah, no. I mean, listen, I wanted to make a recommendation for something to watch. But no, I'm actually terrible about soccer, dude. Like I know zero, bro.
Well,
Go.
I
I
guess
we're gonna say similar things.
Can you even say soccer, or do you sound like stupid saying
Oh,
soccer?
football? Do I have to say
No, I'm
football?
saying. I'm wondering.
Come in, dude.
Get in here.
Squeeze in.
No. Look, that one right there is actually perfect because he can have a mic right there.
he can sit in the corner there.
Go, say what you're gonna say.
All right, so
What's going on, man?
no, so when we first got into Inter Miami stuff, like people were there's a lot of like people guarding it a little bit, right? Like a lot of our like fans initially, especially, was Messi centered. To be honest with you, and what does that bring? That brings a lot of people from like because on YouTube you can kind of see like where they're like
regions that your subscribers are from.
Yeah, so our reach was like India and like England and like a bunch of random places where like they don't know us in Miami, but they know us. They know somewhere. You know?
We're big in Europe, dude.
Yeah, we're very big there. Huge. But the problem is that you see the comments afterwards, and they were just like if you use the wrong term, there was like it was just constant bashing. You know what I'm saying? So we had to deal with that also. So that we would try to speak the right lingo, right? Because it's also like we're from Miami, right? So what's the first thing that we grew up on? We grew up on basketball with the Heat, football, and initially like we're having like in struggles among us when we're like, I wanted to kind of bring it to the common person that doesn't necessarily like you just said you don't know much about soccer, right? So I kind of wanted to say, okay, like this is similar to like when Spoelstra did this and this and this. You know what I'm saying? Because at least that's how I would understand. That's how I understood it.
David would hate that.
He hated it. He's like, we're gonna get crushed by these people from England. They're like, these
Who the hell's Spoelstra, dude? He's big in the Philippines.
Like, they don't want to know about the Heat. They want to hear about the Inter Miami. Why are you talking about Miami sports? This is a soccer show, not other Miami sports. And
no, but that's cool, man.
Eventually, it just kind of flowed. I don't know.
We have to build an identity. Is the main thing because
which is what? Yeah. What do you guys feel that it is at this point?
So I feel like we see it as we are true Inter Miami fans as opposed to just Messi fans. I think Jose alluded to that too. That at first everybody just wanted to see Messi, talk about Messi. That's all we care about. But we have to cater to those people, obviously, because there's so many of them.
It's a lot of them.
But we are trying to be Inter Miami centric as opposed to Messi centric. So we always have to applaud Messi when he does great things because he does it on the regular.
God
but
forbid you don't.
We're always trying to build up the club as well.
What do you mean, Chris? Chris said something negative to
Oh, he
say
said,
about
God
Messi.
forbid. Yeah, it's true. Because if Messi does anything that seems subpar, and God forbid you call him out on that, just the negative attention that we get is
Bashing,
insane.
Really?
rough.
But we can't be afraid to say the truth.
Right.
And it opens
A
you up
lot
to,
of times we like to say, so obviously we know Messi gets injured often and this and that, but we say when we win, we say, hey, the team is actually okay without Messi. Like we could handle it without Messi. Oh, that is the worst thing you can say.
How
What do
dare
you mean?
you?
You don't need Messi on your team? What do you mean? I don't understand. Why are you saying that? Does Messi suck? No, man. We're just saying that the team is okay.
and an acknowledgement that it
without-
is a team and that there are other human beings playing, like, and that there are other, like, you know, and like it isn't this live or die with Messi. I like the. It's not so much being a purist about the sport, it's just acknowledging, like, okay, there's other stuff happening here. Like, I'm a big Drake Callender fan, you know, and like there's other stories happening in this whole thing, and so I like that. I think you guys should stick with that because I think it's like it acknowledges the human being, and I think that's the most important part of this whole thing.
And I mean, Messi's gonna leave eventually, so there has to be a plan beyond that. So as much as we can laud his exploits, there's going to be a point where we're a Messi-less team, whether he continues to play somewhere else or he retires.
Or you have a diminished Messi, like an older, like kind of
right.
veteran.
He's playing
like different era.
He's playing like 50%
Right.
of the games realistically. So, I mean, we have to be like realistic, and I hope what makes us approachable is that we talk about the team and we present it in like a fun way that is like entry level for people. Like, it's not high level breakdowns of soccer or football matches, and at the end of the day, like, we're just some guys talking about Inter Miami. Like, that's what it boils down to.
And we've been friends for a while, right? Like, the way this started one time, to be honest, I don't know if you guys got into it before did you guys?
We slightly mentioned it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so then I won't
But
get
I mean,
into
let's see hear your
Yeah,
version.
the take would be completely
Let's see if it
different.
matches up.
So one day, like we would be playing FIFA, like us, whatever, like at night, and we're like, okay, well,
So it's really all started with FIFA.
it really started with
Yeah.
FIFA. Yeah. So we were playing for years, and we're pretty good, like all four of us, and we were like, well, whatever, let's did you guys see what happened with Messi the other day? It was the game where he won it. I believe it was on.
I mean, it was his first match.
He
It was
he-
Cruz Azul, his
he
first
hit a-
match.
He hit a game winner, and that was like for me, like, whoa, that was a crazy shot, and she has a shot, and I'm supposed to.
Yeah,
kick.
dude.
You see?
I've heard a bunch of terms already that I'm like, that's a red flag,
You
dude.
see?
You hit a shot. That's probably not it, right?
Yeah. He
You
hit a hell of a
kicked.
shot.
God damn it, dude. But anyways,
you know?
go ahead.
So we were looking for some sort of like somewhere to kind of reflect on what just happened and kind of put like an understanding to what we just watched, right?
Right.
And there wasn't really much at the time out there, right? Like we were like kind of like, okay, well this is a void. And then I think Julio said like we should just do a podcast. And we're like, okay, like we don't even know where to start, right? But like,
You know, I think Julio's been trying to pitch a podcast about something.
It's because you guys are getting a taste of how Jose thinks and the things that come out of his mouth. And after hearing that for so long, Julio's been trying to get a mic in front of him for a long time. So then when finally Jose's like, oh, there's nowhere to get this instant gratification after watching Messi play, Julio's like, that's it. This is our premise. We're gonna do that.
That
We're
was
gonna
the
put a mic-
impetus.
We're gonna get a mic in front of you, and that's it. We're gonna roll with it,
that.
and it's worked. I mean, we all have our little quirks, but for the most part, Jose I think is the most entertaining one of the bunch. Julio brings the most knowledge of the sport.
I don't know how to take that.
But you know what stands out to me is that this was born out of authenticity and born out of something that's just like you're doing anyway. You like it, you're passionate about it, you're energetic about it, and I feel like that's the thing that people connect with. So like, you can get a terminology wrong, right? Or like, but you're still connecting because you're interested in it, you're energized in it. And I think people respect the concept of actually doing the thing. Like, go out and actually, okay, seems easy to, because a lot of podcasts are like, oh, we should be on a podcast. Yeah, but you got to put in the reps and like be there. Like, it's not just like, okay, just somebody turn on a camera and let's just like record us talking. It's like, no, you get better at this. You start to write your shows, I'm sure. You have bulleted points, things that organize you. And I think
Started that this year, yeah.
Right, but I think that people were connecting with that. Like, I don't know. I applaud you guys for doing
We
it.
built a little community. I don't know if they've
cool.
mentioned it, but we have that Discord running with our usual fans that we get every show, and it's just really fun. It's become a little community that we can actually watch the games, discuss the games. So what we have, the four of us, is starting to grow. So real time, we can start talking with some of these people from
Really
out of state.
Is that like a premium thing, dude? Are you guys monetizing this? God damn it.
No, not the Discord. Discord.
That's all right. That's where we come in.
You're thinking, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, you guys, that Discord. No, because that gives you, like, as a fan, that's something that at least I would probably, I don't know, I would pay for. Maybe not in sports because I gave that up years ago, but like maybe there's like some kind of membership to like having, like being able to talk to you guys is cool. I mean, like I know you guys probably feel like you're just some dudes like doing it, but at this point there's people, like there's enough of a following, I think, where you can start to build in these little like kind of Patreon things, or maybe some kind of, you're all nodding, you get where I'm going, dude. But yeah, I think we should start doing that, man. Should we get the contract out?
Just like shaping their business plan like in real time.
Yeah, dude, let's do it, bro.
Sheesh.
No, man, that's cool, man.
It
We
is
love you.
It is very cool. And like another one of these things, and I'm glad that you sat right there to talk to us, because David was our, like, hey, well, I know those guys. And
Yeah.
you seem to also have one degree of separation from every creative person in Miami. And maybe that's a good shameless plug for Creative Mornings, which is happening tomorrow at 10 a.m., right?
Yeah, 10 a.m. tomorrow,
but
nearby here.
I'm glad that you popped on at this point, because you're the one that put us onto this.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the inception of how all you guys met initially, which is through sports and through whether it was Little League Baseball or different sports. Like, I met these guys strictly recreationally playing volleyball at Goodlet Park in Hialeah every Thursday for weeks and weeks and weeks. And over time, it then spilled over into, oh, we're hanging out at someone's house after, or they're inviting me over to someone's place, and getting to know them over time. But the genesis was sports, and the competitive, the camaraderie, like all of that was what drew us together, and we all had like a mutual respect. We obviously followed sports, the local teams and other, teams that we grew up with. So seeing them and their journey and seeing where we are now, it felt like a natural kind of like thing to plug us in and see how we can connect, because there aren't many people doing this at the level with the consistency and with the grassroots native touch that we all have in this room. So that's really why those dots were connected.
I'm glad you connected them, though, because it's first of all, I applaud putting the thing out there, just putting it, like I'm a big fan of, like, it isn't art until you put it out there, right? If it's just kind of sitting somewhere or inside or on a, like, into the void of the FIFA chat that you're all on, like, I feel like there's a better way to leverage that and bring that forth, and it sounds like that's what you guys are doing, and like further figuring out the visual components, not the audio, but now there's a visual to it, I think. So I applaud what you guys are doing, and it feels like we're traveling in that, in a similar direction, so it's cool. It's cool to see.
Are you guys Marlins fans as well? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah?
He's a huge Marlin fan.
Most over here, yeah.
Really?
Oh, shit,
Yeah.
dude. All right.
Begrudgingly. but
Okay,
yeah.
see, that's where we were going with it.
It's a
Yeah.
leading question.
Yeah, leading question.
what that
Right. As we see this game 4-1, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally haven't seen a Marlins baseball game in maybe 12 years, dude.
12 years?
Yeah, literally, bro. Like since I left Miami, I haven't laid eyes on a Marlins baseball game, and to be honest, I haven't missed it, brother. I just haven't, like, from what I've seen of it, man, is like, it's just kind of, it's sad, dude. And we've talked about this a lot. Like this, partly, a lot of this conversation is like David was saying. What connected us was like this kind of wanting things to be the way they used to be in the Marlins franchise. But I think that extends into like just our love for Miami sports in general, but specifically speaking about the Marlins, like the teal, right? Bringing back that whole era of like pinstripes, freaking Gary Sheffield.
Bring back
I'm
the teal and black?
Yeah, hell yeah. I'm wondering if you guys have like those kind of memories with the Marlins too, or if you guys are more just.
And I think it's our, I don't know how old you are, but I'm assuming we're in the same.
Yeah, it feels like
ballpark. But I think that generation has that feel, the nostalgia. They want to go back to the '90s and early 2000s and feel that feeling again that we had back then. And I don't know if we're gonna see it ever again from the Marlins, but
Do you
I,
think-
don't know. I think David wanted to add to that
I
one.
mean, I don't know what you're talking about wanting back then. This is the same thing we had back then. We had two and a half good seasons from the Marlins, and that's what gave us 2 World Series rings. The park has always been empty. I was a season ticket holder, and when I was me and 15 other people in the section watching the games, I loved going to the stadium. I didn't care if it was empty. If anything, it felt more intimate. I felt like I actually got to know the players. I was getting baseballs thrown at me every game by Kevin Millar. My favorite player is Kevin Millar. Why? Because he threw me 12 balls in the season.
Here's this kid again.
He's a poor kid. I really gotta give him a ball.
Exactly, but that's where my love for the team goes, is because they were the championship winning team, and while I was growing up, the Heat started winning championships later.
Yeah.
When we're in high school and things like that, but before grade school, they won 2 World Series. But they've always had that issue with ownership not wanting to invest. They invest 1 year, they win, they sell back. We've had that cycle, 4 or 5 times now? This is the Marlins. What we have now is what we've had always, without the championship.
I'm gonna be honest. Whenever I really want to get him upset,
Yeah.
I just start talking about the Marlins.
Okay, good. So we're on to something.
Because it's such an easy thing. It's like such an easy. Because it's like
I know people like that.
you're talking about the nostalgia.
I know people like that.
The nostalgia.
I know a few of them. They're in here.
It's an awesome thing, but like we're way past that, man. And now when they just sold the team, we thought, hey, the new owner, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
So where are you at with it actively today?
It's the same thing. I mean,
But do you still watch it engaged as like a fan? Like, are you
Where are
still
you at?
optimistic? Where are you still?
I cut the cord, so I wasn't watching. I wasn't watching as many games, but I try to catch a game. I love going to the park. The park is cavernous. I don't care. I like going to the parks. I like having a beer and a hot dog and chatting with friends. Everybody's like, who wants to go to a Marlins game? Marlins game is the best thing to go to. You go with a bunch of friends. You don't have to pay attention to the game the whole time.
Right.
It's
Yeah, I
the
think
most
I've caught like
conducive.
4 pitches here. Actually.
It's the most conducive for conversing with your friends and things like that. So
Yeah.
I have this nostalgic, old school mentality when it comes to baseball. And every time I travel, I try to go to the parks, and that's the one thing we don't have. We don't have that feel. If you go to Wrigley, if you go to Fenway, you take a tour of the park and you see the pride that everybody has in the park. We don't have that here. Everybody's like, oh my God, you tore down the Orange Bowl. And I get it.
It's true.
But it's a beautiful stadium. Go to the park if you have a chance. The tickets are super cheap, so I do encourage that. If everything else stinks, it's hard to convince somebody to go to the park when they stink.
Yeah.
But if you love baseball,
No, and dude, they had Luis Fonsi there today. So
see, I couldn't care any less about
Flo
that.
Rida.
I was talking to somebody.
Flo Rida.
I was talking to somebody at Fenway, and he was saying like I don't know. You just got the feel for just pure baseball. When I mentioned all the stuff that they have going around at what is it now? It's not Marlins Park anymore.
Lone Depot.
Lone Depot.
Lone Depot. That in itself is embarrassing.
Right.
But when you mention all these things, that he's like, yeah, that's Miami for you, and it kind of feels like a dagger in my heart. I'm like, it shouldn't be Miami for you, you know? It's
We've had this
baseball.
conversation where it just seems like you have all this homegrown talent on all levels, management, marketing, creative, personnel, whatever. And they always have chosen to pick out people from outside as opposed to looking inward. And it's like you have this entire, we've internally called it the lost generation of Marlins fans.
Roby.
Yeah. Because they've disconnected from us. Like you had this opportunity to connect with the fan base. You have a true tie to memories that are like visceral to each one of us. Whether you went to a parade, you went to 49th Street, or whatever street you went to celebrate with pots and pans, that is something that is baked into your childhood now. And for you to have 20 years go by and have like lost those connections and not have an opportunity to do that, the only thing you can do as an organization is look inward, because you haven't looked inward to the city. You've looked outward, and you haven't found a way to bring in those people that really care about the team. And sadly, like we're in this room doing this podcast because we still care. It might be a 1%, but we're 1% out of the 100%. It's still there. It's blinking. The light's blinking. It's not off. So it's really about connecting those dots, and the team has an opportunity to do it. And there's people right in this room, and also extended networks of people who follow our collective podcast that would love to, be a part of that growth.
I think that's right. I think that it's fair, and I think it's fair to even be like fiery about it. Like it kind of like kind of pissed off about it. And I think that seems like on tone, like not being tone deaf is like acknowledging that you got a bunch of like scorn, kind of like borderline scorned fans of like where you're at. But I think it's interesting because where I separate from that is that I think that there's been many iterations of attempts, people that have like really good intent and really good it doesn't seem to all be external, although there's things that we talk about, especially like the rebrand stuff where they, like the actual aesthetic of the team changed in a way that didn't like hit well with the fans. And then you had another crack at it, and then you could have gone back to the aesthetic that would welcome people back, but then you pivoted in a different direction there too. So I think you need to acknowledge that, like that it's fair. But where I separate, like I said, is that it feels like it's hard to land that if you don't have like a super healthy top-down, like from top to bottom, healthy organization with like all things like functioning well together, right? It's so hard, it's so multi-layered to be a successful organization beyond just like, oh, you have good team on field, therefore you're good. It's like all this whole thing, and it connects back to the experience. You still want to go to the ballpark, but then like I go back, like the Marlins could make it easier to get there, to stay there, have stuff to do around there. Like there are things that you do, and that's organizational. That's more like those 30,000 foot auxiliary. You think that there's supplemental benefits, but they're so connected to you actually creating an experience when you go there. And right now you go, and it's like, it's little things like the light that gets you in once you finally get, like after an hour of sitting in traffic, you finally get off 836, and then it's like a 3-car light that lets you make a turn to get into the stadium, and you're like, yo, like somebody, like just let this flow through. Yeah. But they've built themselves into a corner in this Orange Bowl scenario, and they did it in such a way where the community around it, now they're like vengeful towards you. It's not even like they're opening, like they're like downright like spiteful. Like there's an electrical business, for example. Maybe I shouldn't call them out, but they're right there and they like won't sell. Like, and it might be in their benefit to like, accommodate here, but they won't. And so they've kind of made enemies like with the community around it, and I think that's
so the opposite effect of the stadium.
Correct.
But it's like generations
which is
ago.
the reason why to bring the stadium there was for that.
To develop the area around
Correct.
it.
Within the community.
Yeah.
But this is like inherited beefs, right? So like people who come in, try to do a job to change it, they've inherited these things that have happened. So it's this cycle that just continues to happen, even though the people coming into those roles are either talented or well-intentioned, but it doesn't change the fact that you're here sitting like a scorn fan. Robbie hasn't watched a game in 12 years.
Yeah, no,
and that's
no.
like.
But I think if you start to tap into the culture, right? Like, and by the culture I mean like the demographic and the people here, like the niche here. I think you can start to rebuild that little by little. But like for instance, like and bear with me here, follow me here because I'm taking you guys somewhere. But when you look at like the Rogan, like he built the mothership in Austin, Texas, right? That has literally no history to it. What he did was he took the history from L.A., right, from the Comedy Store, and he injected it into the mothership. And how do you do that? There's a bar called the Messi bar or something, right? And it has like her picture there. And there's like the rooms each have a very clear intent of why they're called he named it after the 2 bombs that dropped in Japan, but it was like the big head and little
Big Boy and
that.
Yeah.
So,
Little
but
Man
like,
and Big Boy.
and I'm gonna land the plane. But the whole thing is, basically, if you can find a way to like tap into the nostalgia that we have and inject it into that stadium, then maybe we'll start going. I think it was Giancarlo in Legends of Date. He posted a picture of like Marlins in Miami, which was that store on 8th Street. The amount of nostalgia that people have for that place, right? But like if you had a little section in the stadium that like memorialized that place, right? But you will only know that if you lived during that time and you're like directly connected to the culture. So I think that's the way back. They can hire us. Cultura Media House, Cultura Creative Company, and we can cut, because it's true. Like that's what I miss. That's why I'm like I have no connection to the stadium at all. But if you inject it with these things, then maybe I'm like, fuck, I want to go see like this memorial for this or that. Felo Ramirez, right? Maybe they have a plaque somewhere in there. But that shit, dude, there should be a section that is literally called Felo Ramirez section. And you can go there and you hear his old, like, you can just play the archives of, like, his old radio shit. I would fucking go to that, man. I get goosebumps thinking about it. I'm a goddamn genius, dude. I gotta go because my wife is texting me and calling me, but I probably have to get divorced. But I love all of you, and dude, it was great meeting you guys, man. You guys are great, dude. You're going to the end of the game, Adrian?
We're gonna run it all the way through.
Hell yeah, bro. I love it. ¿Dónde está Robert? Robert!
Yeah. It's baseball time.
Ven pa' acá, Cere.
Momento.
Hold on, we got to get Giancarlo back to talk about the shirt, right?
You can swap out with me if he wants.
It's up to you guys.
Slide in.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, cool. Call to the bullpen. Well, they brought up the shirt. It's time to talk about this collaboration. Where's Zaya, dude? You're not gonna escape this one. So you're in some capacity. Whenever you're ready, we'll get into Combat Coffee Club. But the shirt that I'm wearing actually is a yeah. What'd you say? This shirt right here.
Una vueltica.
That Giancarlo has right there is it's the first of many like apparel things that we'll launch and that will like collaborations based on our nostalgia. Like I'm sure if you guys were from that era, you remember that shirt that everybody had on and that was of this style.
Yeah, for sure.
So for copyright reasons, we didn't copy it, right? Like it's infused with the nostalgia from that era, but it's a completely different. It's like one of those things you think you're looking right at something, but it kind of turns right at the very end. And if you look at the shirt,
that late movement.
The Legends of Dade brand, we're hoping to expand beyond just baseball. Right now, like it's a lot of baseball, and we're going to keep hitting baseball hard for sure. But we thought it was the appropriate time to acknowledge just overall Legends of Dade, right? And like so, you'll see Marino on here, but you'll also see Jimmy Johnson, Howard Snellenberger, as much as Eric Spoelstra, Dan Lebitard, Udonis Haslam. We got Ron Frazier from Felo Ramirez, which was just mentioned, but
Hall of
we
Famer.
tried to be. We know that this is not polarizing, but we know that there are a lot of guys who will feel like we're left off of this, and I think that that's cool. You have so many that, that there's, things to be left off, and then there's controversial inclusions that no, you don't deserve, like that guy doesn't deserve to be in this, but we try to be inclusive with it. But this is gonna go, or this is live right now, right? Attaboy, Junior. So this is live right now to be purchased, and we wanted to line it up with opening day and the baseball theme. So, but this is something we came up with because you had an idea to do it, and we had the kind of the technical capability to pull it off, or artistic capability, whatever you want to call it. And we drew it up, and it came together like pretty quickly. So
I appreciate you
I'm
guys,
really
man.
hyped about it.
It means a lot. It's something that I've had in my mind for a long time, and it's something that I feel like everybody will be proud to wear. If you're heading to a Marlins game, you want to throw this on with your teal Marlins gear or whatever. But this is something that, like you said, like if you know, you see this is iconic. And I think that the discussion is good, or like the back and forth as to who was left off, who could have been on there, is part of what makes the shirt so great.
Mario Chalmers would probably say he should be on there.
Who, Mario Chalmers?
Yeah.
You see, there you go. Everybody has their personal Legends of Dade.
I'm glad we pulled it off.
Yeah,
Because now it makes me feel like we can do this, we can replicate that model over and over, right? And still hitting enough nostalgia, but like creating something fresh and new, and I think that that's a good well to keep going back to.
In the theme of Heron Heads and soccer, is Lionel Messi able to get on that eventually? Is he capable? Does he have that status in Miami to do that?
I feel like
See, I play more 50% of the games.
I feel like you guys are better positioned to answer this. Is that a quick yes or a quick no?
I don't think that's a yes just yet.
I feel like it's too soon to be a yes.
I also have to see the list.
He's a legend by default. He's already a legend.
He's already a legend.
He's won 2
So he's a living legend.
Okay, so this came up a lot. Is it a legend in Dade or a legend of Dade?
Right.
So these
Exactly.
These
So
can be two
maybe
different things.
when he's done playing, then we'll take a look back and appreciate his
Is
time
the stadium
here,
in Dade?
and you'll be
No,
able to
It's
call
not
him a
even in
legend
Dade, yeah.
Right.
in Miami.
But they have Miami in name.
Yeah, LeBron was the most controversial inclusion, I thought, and I was surprised by that because it's like, was he a legend in Dade or a legend of Dade? I say of. I think anybody brings you 2 championships and that much like
agree.
fun watching basketball, sport, whatever, energy to your organization, which is kind of sounding like Messi, but without the championship. So that's where the
He has two.
TBD
He has two trophies.
two trophies.
It's different. It's different. Like
Feels different.
it does feel because like for example, the first one that he got, it was like over. It was like
The Leagues
It was a
Cup,
Leagues Cup, so it was like a tournament.
Okay.
An inaugural tournament at that.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was new, right? So that was the one thing, and then now look, there's one that's coming up now. It's the Club World Cup.
Right.
If we somehow do some crazy stuff in there, if you know that it's like if the
Did you
first
see the-
round we
did you
play
see the
FC
purse?
Porto.
Did you see the purse that they announced for it?
$1
The winner gets
$1
$1
billion.
billion.
With a B.
The club
Yes.
with a B. The club.
The overall purse is $1 billion.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
that, if they win that immediately.
Right.
yeah, he would
Yeah.
be
So
a
he goes to the
legend
top of the list.
of Dade, in
interesting.
Dade,
That's
around
ridiculous.
Dade.
Yeah.
Because
Like
of all the
Right.
world
Around
championships
Dade.
that we
Okay.
have, that is a true
that's
world
Okay,
champion.
That's a
perfect
world
example then. So if Messi does this, let's say he pulls this off and you
Highly
guys
doubt.
win that,
so
Highly doubtful.
It's
And
probably
then-
1,000 plus 10,000.
right, but then next year he bounces to LA. Do you still, in retrospect, call him a legend of Dade, or was he
For
like,
this
where does
trophy
he-
particularly, that's pretty crazy.
trophy
Like
is-
he would have had to have gone through Real Madrid.
Right.
He would have had to have beaten like
All the major
see.
clubs, and this is not
In Europe,
this
like-
is not a tournament that's every year as well.
Right.
So it's something
It's-
that
it's
it
the equivalent-
carries so much more weight.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
equivalent
LeBron's
of the
gotta be
World
in
Cup.
then.
It's the
LeBron brought you 2 championships and all this energy. He's got to be in.
Right.
But it was
I don't
that
think
was
there's a
surprisingly
question, yeah.
controversial. That was
Well, it's
surprisingly.
because of his exit.
his exit.
Right.
was
So
rough.
that's what I'm saying. If he all of a sudden next year goes to LA, are you holding that grudge
Like,
because he did that?
Do you consider Jimmy Butler in there?
That's a great question.
'cause-
It didn't come up because it was like I think it was too soon kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a hot
Right?
topic.
Felt like too soon.
I don't think he is. Just for everything like just this week, I was so happy watching. Like I haven't watched the Heat. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like
Man,
3-4 months ever since like the whole debacle with Jimmy. I was like, I'm not interested.
wow.
But I was watching now. I was very plugged in, and I was so happy he only had 11 points. Yeah,
For, like, angry
clamped
reasons,
down.
you
We
were
just
plugged in.
yeah.
He was
clamped
hate
down.
watching. He
I was
was hate
hate
watching.
watching. Yeah, I was like, he was talking about it, but he said that there's not much of a Heat culture. That's just that's a made up thing.
Wait.
He was talking about Pat Riley. I mean, it was like, bro, what else is he gonna attack? I don't know.
I think I fall somewhere in between myself, but I think that's valid. And I think a lot of people feel exactly that way. I'm pointing at David over there because he runs Courtside Creatives for us for everything hoops, and everything hoops like Miami hoops, and this was very like squarely in everybody's face. Like you had the whole NBA's attention to yourself, and for not good reasons from a Heat standpoint. So but I think like you could be a legend here while you were here. But then when you zoom it out to like legends of the overall area, then like higher bar is required, and they're like championship or multiple championships, things like that. I think is where.
That's why it's
where
such
the
a
line
cool
gets
shirt.
drawn.
On it. That's why it's such a cool idea
Thank
that you guys had because like it's up for discussion. You know.
Thank you.
I haven't taken a close look at the pictures, but are there any Panthers on there from
So
back
we
in the
talked
day?
about this too. Again, the Panthers are technically out of Miami-Dade County, so like.
They used to be. So
Right, but so it was like an easy like.
Van-
all right,
Van
we got a lot of guys
Here's a
on
quick-
here.
Here's a quick rebuttal.
The Rat got votes. Van Beesbrook got votes.
You know,
So what player from their Miami days would you have on there?
and Beesbrook.
No, I'm asking Chris who brought it
I
up.
was way too young to really know much about
Right,
it. So
and I think that's where we ended up. Like, that's where we kind of fell on it ultimately because the cheap lobbing was like, nah, you don't have this, or before you don't have enough Dolphins. It's too Marlins heavy. But we started. It's a Marlins like kind of infused
By
shirt.
default, it's gonna be primarily Marlins
So
on there.
but yeah, it was talked about. It was talked about, but we made an executive decision to, keep it in a certain range. But that was the point, right? To have some things on the margin that you can still discuss and stuff. So
Plus, a little controversy never hurts.
yeah. I subscribe to that, but like in short dosages. I think some people love the hot take and want it for that. I fall somewhere in between this. But yeah, I'm excited that something was an idea. We had a few artists to put it together, and then through Cultura Media House, we have the business capability and like to turn it into Shopify and to kind of actually turn it into a tangible product. And so I hope that we replicate that over and over because it feels, we're probably sitting on 10 ideas that we need to get out imminently. But the cool thing, especially with people like David and people like everybody else here, that we have the capability to do that. So, pero Robert, te hemos abandonado, bro.
Estoy triste, man.
Dijimos que iba a ser Spanglish y ha sido mostly English.
La gente me está escribiendo y no sabe español ahí. Imagínate. Pero no, todo bien.
No, pero dime, yo quiero escuchar.
No, triste, ven, los Marlins perdiendo. Pero ahí vamos.
I can see it on your face.
Dude, yo me estreso mucho viendo pelota, ¿entiendes? So, y tú sabes, pero por eso me gusta tanto también, ¿entiendes? Entonces nada, ahí vamos.
Tú lo ves, me recuerdas a mí cuando yo estaba viendo los juegos, pero como empleado del equipo. You're like,
sí, mi suegra me dice todo el tiempo, tú ganas dinero con los si más ganas o pierdes los Marlins. No, ¿para qué te pones así entonces? Pero yo creo que es súper común, es una forma de vivir la pelota que en Cuba es así, ¿entiendes? So, si yo te enseño...
Describe eso.
Si yo te enseño videos de mi papá viendo el equipo de Matanzas, ¿entiendes? Donde soy yo en Cuba, en un playoff, tú te reirías y tú dirías, ¿qué le pasa? ¿Entiendes? ¿Está loco? ¿Qué? Pero no, es que nosotros vimos la pelota así, ¿entiendes? Nosotros... a ti te pasa también, y tú me lo has comentado, cuando tú vas a República Dominicana a ver un juego y tú te quedas como, ¿y esto? Que es diferente. La cultura, el mismo deporte, pero se vive diferente. Nosotros somos muy expresivos, nos estresamos mucho en una situación como ahora que tenían bases llenas, ¿entiendes? Y se ponchó con un strike que no era strike, y gritamos. Es diferente, pero sin duda lo disfrutamos igual, pero de una manera diferente.
Right. Because I can see, lo que veo es que Giancarlo también tiene el mismo nivel de... Watching you look at it, mismo nivel de deprimido.
Sí. Pero ser fan de los Marlins es difícil, man.
Right. So that's a good topic too. Eso es buen tema porque yo creo que los fanáticos tienen... O sea, no todos los equipos ganan siempre todos los años. So, tienes que encontrar un balance de cómo ser un aficionado, seguir un equipo, sin que el equipo esté en el top, en el élite.
Sure.
So, ¿qué estamos diciendo? Nos hace falta que sean playoff contenders, right? Que para por lo menos tener un chance de entrar a la postemporada, right? Like I feel like that's the bar. You want to at least feel like you have something on the line and that your season isn't over, at least for the Marlins. Like you don't want to be out of it in June or in May, where you're like, it's just like, man, we got a long enough season left. Like, quedan cuántos juegos
pero
y
es que
ya
fanático,
se acabó la temporada.
Claro, el fanático como yo, Giancarlo, siempre va a estar ahí, siempre va a ir a los juegos. Giancarlo era el niño y yo veo todos los juegos en la televisión o si no voy al estadio. So, el problema es cómo tú logras que la persona que no es tan fanático vaya y se interese por los Marlins. Y eso sí es ganar. Los Marlins, tú necesitas por lo menos ir al estadio pensando que tienes una posibilidad de ganar, ¿verdad? Es triste decir, yo voy al estadio, pero yo sé que los Marlins van a perder, ¿entiendes? Entonces, es una cosa que los Marlins han experimentado, y tú hablaste una cosa, como el balance entre ganar y perder. Pero es que nosotros llevamos 20 años perdiendo, ¿entiendes? O sea, nosotros desde el 2003 hemos tenido ¿cuántas temporadas ganadoras? ¿3, 4? Entonces, cada vez que tenemos una temporada ganadora, automáticamente se desarma el equipo. Pasó el 2009, pasó el 2023, ¿entiendes? Por ejemplo, yo decía, el año pasado, cuando nosotros empezamos la temporada, teníamos una mentalidad bien diferente. Nosotros teníamos Luis Arraez, nosotros teníamos ¿cuántos peloteros? ¿Verdad? Sin embargo, ahora tú empiezas y tú dices, ok, ¿qué yo quiero ver? ¿Por qué yo quiero ver a los Marlins? ¿Entiendes? ¿Qué yo voy a ver en los Marlins? ¿Qué jugador hay que yo diga, wow? Y uno busca motivaciones donde no las hay, ¿entiendes? Yo digo, quiero ver a Griffin Connight porque es el hijo de tú sabes. O quiero ver a Matt Mervis porque a ver si ya 40 jorrones y no pasa al final. Porque tú estás soñando, ¿entiendes? Tú estás teniendo esperanza de jugadores que a lo mejor no van a hacerlo, ¿entiendes? Pero es difícil, bro.
There's no way to steer this into I keep to steer this conversation and keep it in a positive place. It goes like everybody's so like viscerally like
the next thing I was thinking about saying was really off. So I was like, I don't think it's the right time.
Pero hablando de temas positivos, y lo estábamos conversando ayer.
No, pero aquí estábamos hablando de esto.
Yo sí quiero decir que hay muchos muchachos jóvenes que quieren demostrar que valen para Grandes Ligas en el equipo. Y tienen la oportunidad que no han tenido en donde los clubes quizás donde fueron drafteados. Hablamos del caso de Matt Mervis, hablamos del caso de Javier Zanoja, que es venezolano, otros jugadores que ellos quieren demostrar, mira, yo estoy ready para Grandes Ligas. El caso de Dan Myers, que acabó de batear ahí ahorita, un muchacho que fue drafteado como lanzador y ahora es bateador y ha encontrado su momento de jugar Grandes Ligas a los 29 años, ¿entiendes?
No
Entonces,
vayas muy lejos.
son buenas historias.
El mismo Mike Lowell, que estaba aquí con nosotros, and plug the Mike Lowell episode we just released, which I think is one of my favorite things that we've put out there. Pero hablando de eso, él habló de llegar al equipo en el 99, so getting here in 99, and we asked him, like, what's the status of the team? O sea, ¿cómo está este equipo? And he's like, it's like a AAA team, basically, but he said himself, baseball is it's a selfish game inside of a team concept, right? Because you have to find windows to establish, o sea, para establecerte uno, hay que tener la oportunidad.
Claro.
Con un equipo bueno, un muchacho joven, no le van a dar la oportunidad.
Claro.
So it's like this balance of, like, you almost need to go through your cycles of not so great for your younger players to establish themselves. But to the other side of the point for the fan is like, yeah, man, but how many cycles of this we got to endure before
No, y
we
los
kind of
muchachos
glue
no
this
están
all together?
mirando que si perdemos 100 juegos, 120 o 110. Ellos quieren demostrarle en cada una la oportunidad de que son jugadores de Grandes Ligas, ¿entiendes? Y eso es bueno, porque si tú tienes, por ejemplo, no quiero decir ningún nombre porque es una cosa genérica. Cualquier jugador, ¿verdad? Que sea un jugador ya establecido de Grandes Ligas, jugar en un equipo que pierda 120 juegos es difícil, se desanima y probablemente tenga los números más malos de su carrera. Sin embargo, estos muchachos no se van a desanimar porque tú pierdas tantos juegos. Ellos quieren demostrar que son jugadores de Grandes Ligas. Eso es la parte interesante. Y hay muchas historias ahí que están buenas en los Marlins. Y jugadores que yo quiero ver. Pero yo soy, lo vuelvo y te repito, yo soy fanático de los Marlins y de esos jugadores porque lo vengo viendo mucho desde que están en AA, y tú dices, coño, quiero verlo en Grandes Ligas, a ver qué tal. Pero el fanático casual del béisbol no entiende esos procesos.
Pocos.
Seguro, no, en el sentido de ver béisbol, seguro, imagínate. Por ejemplo, qué sé yo, White Sox, ¿verdad? Es un equipo que está en una situación similar a Miami, right? Pero White Sox tiene jugadores como Luis Robert, ¿verdad?
Exciting players.
Que tú sabes que tú quieres ir a ver a Luis Robert. Nosotros teníamos a Luis Arraez, un jugador
Como
que
Sandy.
conectó, Sandy Alcantara, ¿verdad? Pero a diferencia de Sandy, Luis Robert juega todos los días.
Right. So an
¿Entiendes?
everyday impactful position player.
Exacto. Entonces nosotros teníamos, por ejemplo, a Luis Arraez, era un jugador parecido. No
Jazz-
estoy comparando
Jazz
niveles.
Chisholm,
Jazz
que era
Chisholm.
super exciting.
Exacto.
Es uno de esos jugadores que you can build around.
Exacto. Y
Have
que,
your
y que,
sprinkle
y
of
que
fun.
yo me acuerdo, el niño de Giancarlo decía, yo quiero ir al estadio porque yo quiero ver a Jazz Chisholm, ¿verdad? Entonces, ¿a quién va a ir o sea, qué jugador el niño de Giancarlo va a decir ahora? Yo quiero ir al estadio a ver a este jugador si ninguno de estos jugadores está en el opening day pasado.
Right, so, but that's a good example because they had Jazz Chisholm and what should have happened didn't happen, right? Like, it's not the only reason people go to the game. So we're saying, like, a layered thing. Like,
Yeah.
you need exciting players and you need to have a competitive product. So you're not just saying, like, exciting player gets you full attendance or gets you renewed energy. And it goes a long way because it's kind of hard to have. You're not going to win very many games without too many talented players. It's kind of hard to, like, you're kind of saying the same things, but you also need dynamic players and people with, like, charisma, personality, back to, like, the Jose Fernandez years and like those things, like the reasons people show up. But even during those years, people weren't showing up in droves either. So it's like,
right.
When Jose was pitching,
you
the
gotta
place
win.
was packed though.
Yeah, I was gonna say when he was pitching, it was packed because I mean I would go to multiple
I
games
was
like
gonna
that.
say, I was like, I don't want to say that one.
no, but the biggest thing is the WBC and the Savannah Bananas. To me, are classic examples of, like, if you think baseball doesn't work in Miami, you think this doesn't, like, people don't care about it here, watch the Savannah Bananas come to town and pack the house for 2 days in a row at 38,000 seats, back-to-back nights.
And not cheap.
And not cheap. Sell out merch lines down the block. And then even further, okay, say that's like, you can
Eso
have
es
your...
tremendo tema, man.
Right, but so that's more of like a show. But then
Yeah.
you go to the World Baseball Classic and you'll watch the same, like,
Dude.
and not all of those people have flown in just for the World Baseball Classic. A good amount, but a lot of those people are here. We just had, Daylon and Albert talk about, like, they're deep into the youth baseball world. Like, baseball is, like, popping here. Now,
I think they
whether it works on
underestimate.
an MLB level, MLB team here, that is yet to be determined, I think.
¿Cuánta gente juega softball en Miami? Aquí todo el mundo le encanta la pelota.
El mundo es-
Lo que pasa es que no basta con tener una temporada ganadora, ir a playoff, perder y 10 años más, ¿entiendes? tienes que tener un producto competitivo constantemente para crear una cultura. Tú no creas una cultura, o sea, ¿cuántos jugadores tiene Miami, o sea, los Florida Marlins o los Miami Marlins con la gorra Miami en el Hall of Fame? Yo lo puedo decir 0, ¿entiendes? 0, porque no creamos leyendas, no creamos jugadores que digan, ok, la carrera, Milo, so Boston, el otro, todos van a final con una gorra diferente.
Should have been Sheffield.
But that happens a lot, and I feel like people don't get as upset about it. Like there's a particular gripe that I think the South Floridian fan has with the way that the teardowns have happened more than anything than the lack of because Seattle doesn't have a championship. They pack the house.
Ya, pero esta gente están ganando desde el año más de 80 juegos desde hace 20 años.
But that's the thing. How many lifelong Mariners fans were created because of the team in the 90s? Like teams underestimate, even though you're rebuilding and you can have a low payroll, but it's important, like you said, to have an impactful position player that people are going to come out to the ballpark to watch, because how many generations of baseball fans that could have been we lost within this fourth iteration of the rebuilds, right? Like you're losing every year that you don't have that player on the field. You're losing a generation of fans that could have been fans that would have been that loyal fan 10 years down the line.
That's the thing. They've broken the trust. There's
Exacto.
no sustainable star. Using Seattle as an example, they had Griffey for so long. They had Ichiro for so long. They had King Felix for so long.
Randy Johnson.
They leave after a while, but I mean the majority of their career is spent in one place. We can't say that about anybody, and you hate to see it that we become a farm system for everybody else, and that's unacceptable. No club should have to endure what we do.
I like to use the Heat as an example, because even though the Heat it's different, but and like Dwayne Wade, right? They've had that player, but there was a lot of you can say bandwagon fans that hopped on the bandwagon during the Big Three era, but when LeBron left, they stayed, and they're Heat fans, even today. So that's. It's important to, at the end of the day, put somebody out there that you can call your franchise player.
They've earned that trust. The Heat have gone above and beyond to win championships. Even it hasn't worked out, obviously. Look with Jimmy Butler. Hasn't worked out, but you can't say they didn't try. The years before they got LeBron James, they tried. This is a team that always tries to win. You can't say that about the Marlins. Yeah. They did it once. They did it twice, and it worked out twice. Keep at it. Don't just do it once. Wave your trophy around and then get the hell out of Dodge. That's what we've been having.
You can go further than that. I mean, the Heat are also been good since the 90s. That's what brought me into liking them.
But they weren't winning championships. They were in the hunt.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying.
It's like the intent of the ownership, though. Like, these other franchises haven't scarred us the way the Marlins franchise has. Like, look at the Panthers. They never had a good team, so they could never really tear it down and break our hearts the way the Marlins ownership has done with the Marlins teams. Like, the Marlins, they've had players that you could build around, and at every opportunity they've taken that and just sent them away and sold them. But the opportunity has been there, and they've decided with those opportunities to just say, nah, we'll take the money, we won't build off of that. So they've lost our trust so many times over that there isn't that attachment at any point, because every time you get attached to this team, they're going to get rid of your favorite player.
Claro. Si hay una franquicia, yo creo que lo ha tenido fácil para crear una comunidad y una cultura alrededor de su equipo, de cualquier deporte en Estados Unidos, son los Marlins de Miami. Tú tienes la cultura.
No ha sido fácil, eso no ha sido fácil.
O sea, no ha sido fácil porque han hecho las cosas increíblemente mal.
That's where I push back and disagree.
It's
not that simple though. There's and I get into this all the time because I think that there's I don't know if it's a meet me halfway there kind of thing on the side of the fan. And I see eyes rolling in here as a result of that. But there's I want to contest and say there's a lot of processes that go right along the way that are being let's go back to that era that everybody loves, that Stanton, Yelich, Fernandez, Realmuto, that whole group. You need to sign those guys, you need to develop those guys, you need to get exciting players. I guess the hard thing that I think is getting blown past is that it's just easy to wrangle a dynamic player and just have him play for your organization for a long enough amount of time for people to feel satisfied that he's been here long enough. That's an exceptionally hard thing that people throughout baseball are it's the elusive, how can I get the star player? How can I develop the dynamic player? So no es fácil.
No es fácil,
pero lo han tenido.
Pero si aquí juegan los cangrejeros de Santurce contra los indios de Mayagüez y se llena el estadio de los Marlins.
Tampoco así, pero entiendo.
No es
entiendo tu
así.
punto.
Sí,
Entiendo tu
hicieron
punto.
partidos de exhibición este año. Vinieron las Estrellas Orientales, vinieron los Tigres Licey, vinieron los Cangrejeros
Serie Caribe,
Santurce.
yeah.
No, fueron partidos de exhibición este año.
that's right.
Y el estadio se llenó. Entonces, la gente aquí adora la pelota. Y verdad que hay una pila de comunidad aquí que son gente de esos lugares y van a ver a los equipos de ellos, de sus países, porque no tienen la posibilidad, porque no viven donde nacieron, ¿verdad? Porque yo estoy seguro que en Cuba, si por ejemplo, si tuviéramos una sociedad normal y vinieran los industriales a jugar aquí a Miami, no, mira, los tickets ahí son peor que la serie de Tokio, ¿entiendes? Para cogerlo. Pero la comunidad que le gusta el béisbol existe. Vienen los Yankees y parecen los Yankees de Miami, ¿entiendes? Se llena el estadio. Lo que pasa es que durante 30 años no se ha creado, o sea, y no estoy culpando a esta gerencia porque lleva 2 años trabajando, eso es injusto también. Porque mucha gente dice, no, que sí, no, esta gerencia hay que dejarla hacer, ¿entiendes? Y vemos después. Pero hasta ahora no se ha creado una cultura en una ciudad donde a la gente le gusta el béisbol de seguir un equipo. Porque a la gente aquí le gusta el béisbol.
Primero?
Ganar partidos consistentemente durante 10 años.
That's fair. I think that's durante 10 años, right
Claro.
up until that very end, it's like, okay,
Claro,
do it
pero,
for 10 years.
pero tú hablaste de los Marineros de Seattle. Es justo lo contrario de los Marlins de Miami. Los Marlins de Miami tienen 2 series mundiales y la ganaron rapidísimo.
Right.
Sin embargo, esta gente nunca han ganado una serie mundial.
Right.
Mira a ver qué equipo llena el estadio y qué equipo no.
Right. You'd rather be in the Mariners position even without the two championships because
Claro,
it's a sustainable
claro.
product. Okay.
¿Qué equipo llena el estadio y qué equipo no?
Yeah.
Y a mí no me dicen, a mí no me van a decir, no me van a convencer que la gente en Seattle le gusta más la pelota que la gente en la Florida.
Right.
No, eso no es verdad.
This is the kind of emotions that this generates, though. Every time we get to this place, so I think it's a good place to just like leave you guys with the opportunity to kind of like do a final shameless plug of the show. But more than anything, you guys are here because we thought you were doing something cool, and we wanted to kind of meet and talk about it. I didn't know Roby was gonna like thrust you guys right into the beginning.
No, either. I was
But
outside looking for parking, and I was like, why aren't these guys answering my call?
Same. I saw Jose calling. I'm like, oh, yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
And I was all right.
I'm gonna cycle in a few of these other guys here, but really nice to meet you guys, man.
Thank you guys for having us. We appreciate it.
Keep doing what you guys are doing.
Nice to meet you.
You can just put it down right there. Nice to meet you guys. Man. Thank you for coming on and sharing with us. Hey!
Nice to meet you, bro. Nice to meet you. Oh, sorry.
Zaya, get over here, bro. So back to 7th inning. 4-2, so we got a ball game, right?
Sí, pero el inning anterior fue muy interesante. Yo creo que es
Hey, there he
Entering
is.
the octagon.
Sí, ya.
There he is.
What quarter are we in? Halftime?
El inning anterior, Adrian, para ponerte un poco al día, fue muy
Extra time.
interesante. Porque Miami tuvo las bases llenas y no pudo anotar solo una carrera. Entonces, ese tipo de inning que te puede cambiar un juego. Y no, tú sabes, pudieron los Piratas minimizar el daño y solo permitir una carrera, pero básicamente no pudimos aprovechar esa oportunidad del sexto inning. Claro, porque tenían bases llenas. O sea, y de hecho, Merby se ponchó con hombre en segunda y tercera. Cuestión de que cualquier cosa menos poncharse hubiese producido una carrera. Right? O sea, un fly corto obviamente no, pero un rolling al cielo hubiese hecho una carrera y hubiese sido un juego de una carrera que ya es bien diferente en el béisbol.
This is a good opportunity to introduce Hector Zaya, which is the reason this exists even as a live stream, because Hector Zaya is, first of all, a very close friend, but also like a professional colleague at this point, and somebody who you're the first connection from everybody here in the studio. Like, it's the collaboration we had back when we were doing other careers even, you know, it was as a result of that initial collaboration that we circle back, and then you're my connection to this whole new group of people, and vice versa. And I think it's, I'm glad that you're here, and I say that this exists because of you is because through Combat Coffee Club, which I'll let you introduce and describe, the concept of a companion watch, or of a kind of like an adjacent thing happening live stream that we could do as we're going through this, or as we're watching this sports event. Like, that was because of your combat and coffee concept. So what is Combat Coffee Club?
Well, first, I mean, thank you guys for having me. I never thought I'd be in a baseball companion live stream. That was the last thing I ever thought when I got in here. But yeah, Combat Coffee Club is basically just combining, like, you know, my passion for combat sports and coffee, and, you know, getting older. I used to go places to watch the fights. It was like a hangout. It was like a big event for me, because, like, you guys always had baseball, and you have baseball almost the majority of the year. Then you have the playoffs, then you have the World Series, and then you're, like, always rooting for your team. But I was never really into sports like that, because I grew up doing martial arts, so I didn't have, like, that for my thing that I was actively doing. So when the UFC came around and combat sports, like, I was super deep in. And
you
then
had that capability, it just wasn't focused toward team sports.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I love the Heat. I love, you know, the Dolphins, the Marlins, not really, but I share the same sentiment of everyone here. But and I won't say the Marlins, I'll say baseball. I just never really gravitated towards baseball. But I just really got deep into UFC and mixed martial arts. And then when we started, you know, doing everything we were doing over here, it just, like, made sense. You know, everyone's kind of just pursued their passions and things that they're into, and that was just, like, a natural thing that, like, I always wanted to do. And we always say, like, if we were gonna do it anyways, like, I was gonna watch the UFC, and, like, now we have a studio that we can even watch it in, like, why not stream it? Like, that's what we do. And then obviously, you know, given our backgrounds, we could comment on it, but just having fun watching the fights. And then the coffee aspect is because when you get older, like, you need coffee to stay up till 1 a.m. for some of these cards. Like, I used to be able to watch them all night, but it's tough now. But yeah, that's where it stemmed from.
I love it, man. And I'm going to shamelessly plug Creative Club, which is also one of our pods that we produce here in-house as well, that Hector is the host of. I think it's one of my favorite things that we do here is Creative
Thank
Club.
you, bro.
Because I think, and I'm a little biased, I was a guest myself.
First episode.
First one, there you go, episode 1. But I love the conversations about creatives, and especially about, like, centered around creative entrepreneurship, or entrepreneurship within the creative space. Although it varies, you know, like the range of guests that you have here while still being creative entrepreneurs is really, really cool. I mean, we had a glass blowing business in as the
only
last
one
episode,
in Miami.
Which the only one in Miami.
Yeah.
There you go. So I'm excited to keep diving in more to that. But I feel like we technically are able to do a lot of what we're doing through the trials, like the trial and error period that you went through the Combat Coffee Club, just trying to get it
no,
right.
and even before that, like, I was actually thinking about it, because, like, I mean, the setup now is, like, crazy that we have. It's, like, legit. But I was, like, trying to figure this out while I was, like, you know, doing my live stream for DJing, and it was just my phone, and I never thought that, like, it would pay off now, like, being able to understand how all this works. And then now we can just stream a baseball game and, like, have a legitimate show, or UFC fights, or whatever it is.
Yeah, now you know, it's like the doing it and then knowing it's possible after that is, like, that's a powerful thing. You know, it's a powerful thing to know that you're capable of, oh man, well, we did this, like, what if we, and then every iteration is, like, a little better and a little better and a little more exciting. So I feel like with this, like, this baseball stream, for example, I want to get to a point where we're introducing a lot more of that, I don't know, baseball savant, fan graphs, like baseball reference, like screen grabs of these things happening. I wish we could do the straight video breakdown and analysis, but like I said, the Manning Cast, we're coming for that, you know? We're coming for the rights to that at one point,
man,
I think.
you never know.
Robert, cuéntanos aquí, bro. Tenemos un juego.
Cerradito. Pero ahí vamos.
Y tú estabas ahí como si el mundo se había caído.
Sí, men. Yo vivo así esa pelota. A mí me gusta, yo lo vivo de esa manera, ¿viste? La pelota. Pero bien, ahí vamos. Vamos a ver qué pasa al final. Yo pienso que uno de los problemas más grandes que tienen los Marlins este año es el bullpen. Y la gente no habla mucho de eso, pero ahí hay muchos problemas. Y al final del juego estoy seguro que tenemos buenos abridores que van a dejar el juego en posición de pelear. Y puede que tengamos problemas ahí en el bullpen. No veo ese Tanner Scott que tenía el año pasado, AJ Puck o...
It's going to be tough to, even in the games that you're up in, it's going to be tough to hold that lead.
Al final va a tener... Yo me recuerdo el año pasado, contra los Piratas mismo, estábamos en el Opening Day, estábamos en el estadio. Y los Piratas trajeron, no me acuerdo quién vino del séptimo, en el octavo vino Chapman y en el noveno vino Brennan. O sea, ya tú llegas, si tú sabes que si no los cogiste en los primeros innings, perdiste, porque tienen 3 buenos. Y eran los Piratas, ¿verdad? Es un equipo que tampoco... Pero es difícil, o sea, es una temporada larga para los Marlins, definitivamente. Ahí vamos.
What I like about this is that first of all, I'm watching the game from a way less emotional place than when I used to be in it. You watch like living and dying with every out as I'm, it's a tough way to watch the game. But I think baseball reminds you that you could still have like normal paced conversation while still, And UFC is interesting too because there's so much downtime and then there's action and then everybody's locked in. But most of the time you'll be able to like lay back. So it's comparable in that way.
But the difference is that there's downtime, but at any moment something can happen. So you're always kind of on edge. Where here it's like, like they could just hit a bomb right here and like we're not expecting it, but it's like there's no dire consequences.
Yeah.
Like so they'll be all right.
Yeah, it's gonna be all right.
and then even then you see the ball in the air.
Mira quién está ahí.
Wow, superstar appearance. Damien in the house. Damien, you want to come on camera? No? Okay. You had the chance, all right? If you change your mind, let me know. It's Giancarlo's son from Legends of Dade. Damien he's a celebrity here in the studio, so maybe we'll convince him to be able to come on later. I think he actually wants to. If not, you wouldn't be peeking his head, but
I do appreciate like the I used to like kind of hate on it in the beginning, but like the downtime of like sometimes you're not really playing the whole game, and then maybe you have an off day that you're not pitching, and then it's like it is kind of like I don't want to say a relaxed sport because it's not, but it's like you don't need to be this like specimen of an athlete to be really good.
It helps.
Yeah. It helps, but you could be
skilled. There's pockets for guys that aren't that.
Right, exactly. Whereas, like in the UFC, like if you're in the UFC, like there's no like percentage that you could drop off like at the top.
It's very rare that like, how did this guy get in here?
Yeah, no.
How did he like make it to this?
At
point?
all.
Baseball has more openings for guys with seemingly more because it's such a skilled sport.
Yeah.
You could develop a skill at a high enough level to get by, but like I'd still argue that the like pound for pound athleticism and stuff is still king in baseball, but you can still find a role to be like a catcher that frames and find your way into Jacob Stallings.
Y hay una diferencia grande entre los deportes también, y es que el béisbol es un deporte que de pronto una temporada tiene 162 juegos. Right? Tú tienes oportunidad de perder hoy, los Dodgers perdieron y por eso los Dodgers se van a sentir mal, ¿no? Mañana son el mejor equipo de Grandes Ligas, ¿entiendes? Mañana van a ir otra vez. Una pelea de UFC, si tú estás peleando por un campeonato, en un momento que se te quede la mano un poco abajo, bro, estás en el piso, ¿entiendes? Y perdiste.
And you could be out for a year or two, something happens, and then like don't have another chance, or the sport keeps moving and they forget about you, and it's like a lot of things weigh in on a fight. It's like so much because it's not like you can just go back on next week.
Right. Dude, I've learned so much just from first by being on the live streams, but just being more through Combat Coffee Club, feeling like I'm now plugged into, because it's not just UFC, right? Like it covers boxing. We've done a few WWE events as well, or plan to. The Royal Rumble one was awesome.
That was fun.
That was fun. I hadn't connected to that part of myself since I was 12.
Me neither.
But it was cool. But I do like you put something out recently was it about the welterweight class?
Oh yeah. Like
a carousel, like infographic about the welterweight class in UFC, and I learned something through that post. So therefore, to me, like your whole, like that existing is worth it if it's connecting with people like that, man. And you're informing people and kind of keeping people up to date with the sport. And you leverage being a graphic designer, super talented graphic designer. You kind of leverage that, to your benefit here.
Yeah, it's just like goes back to like that was in my head, and then I'm like, how do I get it out? And I'm just. Because I'm thinking about it, it's happening, and I have like some sort of platform I can put it out. It's like the perfect mechanism to like have to be able to show what's in my brain, and then also it'll educate someone, or someone will see it, or I have that one I did of the Dominic Cruz that he retired. He saw it and he liked it. And like that was super dope. Just like I don't care if no one liked it,
right.
But he saw it and he liked it. I was like, all right, cool. Like it was worth the hour I took to make that. So it's just stuff like that that's like super cool. And we say like memes and streams. Like when I have like those like stupid joke memes of like, because it's like really big in MMA community, like memes. So it's like just being able to put that out so it doesn't stay in my head is like already a benefit in itself.
It's a big deal, man. That's awesome. Because it's so authentic to the energy in here, right? Like, it doesn't matter if nobody likes it. Do you like it?
Yeah.
You know, like, you like it and you're energized by that. You and Robert, en lo que tú haces, no importa si lo ven 3 gente y ahora lo están viendo bastante gente, pero a ti te gusta.
Bro,
y te beneficia a ti.
De hecho, lo hemos hablado. Una vez.
Te desahogas.
Bro, o sea, definitivamente aquí uno pasa mucho tiempo. O sea, esto no es mi trabajo, ¿entiendes? Mi trabajo es otra cosa que genera estrés, mucho tiempo pensando en lo mismo. De pronto encuentras un lugar donde tú puedes salirte de lo que está en tu cabeza todo el tiempo generando estrés y por un momento, por 1 hora, 2 horas, estás hablando de lo que te gusta con personas que le gusta lo mismo que a ti. Y, bro, el valor que ha tenido eso para mi salud mental y en estos últimos años que vamos haciendo esto es increíble, bro. Yo me he sentido espectacular haciendo el podcast de pelota, ¿entiendes?
Right. And I think you podcast form, you also have the podcast for yourself as well as these live streams. But what I like about the 786 Sports umbrella is that, you know, Giancarlo's whole entity is not necessarily a podcast, yet you're able to create in this direction of sports specifically, where it's like these directions to create in that are really for yourself. Like, you're making it for a version of yourself, a younger version of yourself. And I think that that's where, you know, it's the Rick Rubin thing, Mr. Cuban Rick Rubin over there, Junior Alonso, shout out. I think you make things for yourself first that you're interested in, and then that's the thing that ironically connects with people. You know, like the authenticity level that you can't, it's kind of hard to access any other way. So if you start trying to make what people like, you immediately lose. Maybe it happens to be what you also like, but now the energy and the passion isn't quite the same because you're now trying to do it elsewhere. And I think we're organized around this concept of putting things out there, making things and putting them out there. And I think that that's true for each of those individual entities, you know?
I used to joke, like, I have all this useless information. Like, people used to be like, dude, like, you know a lot about Marlins history. But like, well, I have so much useless information. Like, but then I'm actually have a platform where I'm able to put it out.
Yeah, man. And so that
it goes to show that I'm not alone. There's other people that care about it too, you know?
Honestly, man, that gives me, like, that is reason in of itself to just keep doing it, right? And to keep giving people platform to keep doing it. So I hope my wife is listening to all this because it's I love you. And I think it's it's interesting to like constantly have to, or I'm recapping all the things that happen here on a day-to-day basis and like things that make it like reasons to keep engaging and to keep moving and to keep investing time and to keep investing. And I'm glad that all of these things are coming up because everybody that has spoke here and everybody that comes in, it's all like a super viable reason to keep this project going because everybody feels energized by it and able to participate in it. So I know I get energized by that a lot, but it also, it helps, you know, that it's beyond just my words because it feels like it's coming genuinely from all of you guys too in terms of the value it's had to everybody. So I think that's enough reason for me to just make sure we keep going and allow the ability to keep pushing things out there. So, and that's what this is. That's what our Big League show is. It's literally the culmination of a lot of those things, even though it's just episode 1. So I am hyped.
I mean, the fact that you got me to watch a baseball game, you
go.
won, dude. Yeah. You already won. I think I've only been to this stadium. I've been like 3 times. Actually, I think that's where I actually first met you. I think
at the stadium.
Yeah, I forgot about that one, but and then pro player like once in my life for a game. Then I didn't watch the whole thing. It's too long, too hot.
And here you are, like making it all happen for a Big League show. Because you
Baseball,
created the
baby.
thumbnail, you created the stream, the page that we're streaming on right now, the YouTube link that we're streaming on right now.
But don't forget, I play Pascual.
Pascual.
Yeah. Outfield, baby.
Shout out Pascual. That's actually where I started playing baseball too.
Yeah.
3.5 years old, I was already playing. And it was at Pascual, T-ball at Pascual.
But if you play outfield as a kid, it's like, it's tough to get back from that.
Yeah.
if you don't love it instantly.
No, that's like the meme of the little kid turning around in center field peeing with his pants halfway down. Like he's like.
Nah, my mom would say I was always just dancing in the outfield. Like.
I think to your point about, you know, getting to watch a game or getting to sit here and watch a game that you probably haven't done in a while, the other element to baseball that's kind of being added is they're trying to shorten those games. They're trying to make it more engaging. They're trying to make it more interesting. They're adding the pitch clock. You know, they're the biggest complaint that I ever hear people say of baseball that don't really sit in that baseball circle is, oh, it's boring to watch. Oh, it takes too long. We have to sit there. And I'm like, when you really sit back and think about it, like, football takes just as long as a baseball game takes. It's just potentially more engaging with the tackling and all that, like, you know.
Yeah, but think about football. How many seconds is the average play? 4 seconds?
Yeah,
3
very
seconds?
short.
The graph of actual game time versus downtime.
Yeah,
like
I think it was like 15 to 20 minutes.
¿Qué pasa, por ejemplo, con lo hablaste ahorita? Y lo tenía para decírtelo y se me fue de la mente. Savannah Bananas, right? Dude, ¿cuántos equipos de grandes ligas tienen más seguidores en Instagram que los Savannah Bananas? Yo puedo decirlo, uno, los Yankees de New York. Más nadie. Más nadie. Entonces, definitivamente las grandes ligas tienen que mirar a eso. Obviamente, tú no vas a hacer un show de gracioso porque estás jugando un deporte de alto nivel. Pero lo hablamos ayer, lo que están haciendo los marineros en las redes sociales, ¿verdad? Que están haciendo tremendo trabajo.
Pero les voy a decir que los Marlins van a ganar este juego.
Un walk-off win en el noveno inning.
I'm gonna do the
Ese
reverse.
Otto López.
I'm gonna do the reverse Robert.
Ese es el jugador favorito de Liani, bro.
I'm gonna do the reverse Robert. Este juego lo vamos a ganar.
En el noveno walk-off.
Lo vamos a dejar al campo.
Dude, pero definitivamente. Me extraña que ella venga. Pero ese es el jugador favorito de Eli. Entonces, Otto. Otto, que tremenda historia. Juega por Canadá el Clásico Mundial. Otro top prospect que no recibió muchas oportunidades en los equipos por donde pasó y ha encontrado un lugar en Miami para demostrar su talento. Tremendo jugador y tremenda persona.
Elite defender.
Así mismo. El único jugador que en la temporada pasada fue top 3 en su posición en carreras prevenidas.
Run save, defensive run save.
Out sobre
Out above replacement. Out above replacement.
Fue el único en su posición de todo el equipo de Miami fue Otto López. Arriba de él solo estuvieron Andrés Jiménez y Marcus Simmons. Fueron los únicos dos jugadores.
Literally elite.
Exacto.
As a rookie.
No es rookie realmente, no su temporada es rookie, pero es un jugador que ha tenido muy poca experiencia en
the
Grandes
service time has to be very low.
Exacto.
Still probably qualifies as a rookie. So.
Pero hablando de lo que tú habías mencionado de los Savannah Bananas, ¿ustedes vieron cómo se puso ese estadio en esos 2 o 3 juegos?
El de que en Tampa llenaron el estadio de fútbol americano, right?
Para que entonces después no digan que los fanáticos de Miami o los que viven aquí abajo no les gusta ir a los juegos. Eso es mentira. Eso es mentira.
Eso es totalmente mentira. Es increíble como yo creo, si miran el soccer y miran lo que están haciendo los equipos de soccer en redes sociales y por qué la pelota no hace eso. O sea, cuando tú haces un touchdown en fútbol americano, el otro hace greedy, el otro da un mortal con el teléfono en la mano. En el soccer tú metes un gol y eso
celebra.
10 minutos celebrando. Right? Entonces la pelota, Acuña da un jonrón y hace una cosita. Y
mira, empatado.
No way.
Empatado.
Let's go.
Robert Jr. Te quedas sentado ahí.
Sigue hablando.
Tú te quedas sentado ahí. En esa silla no te muevas.
Sigue hablando.
4-4.
Básicamente,
4-4, bottom of the 8th.
Caballo power.
Wish you could hear the call, like Kyle Sealand.
Yeah.
Pero definitivamente
we'll get copyrighted. You know, we can't. As much as I want to, have Kyle.
Otra tremenda historia de Dan Myers. Para seguir en el tema, en serio, eso es una cosa que el béisbol tiene que entender cómo llegar a que no es bajarle el tiempo de reloj de los juegos, no es eso. Hay que darle la vuelta a entender cómo hacer el juego más entretenido a las redes sociales. Porque si un pitcher poncha con bases llenas con 2 outs, no puede berrearse ponche, ¿verdad? O porque un bateador no puede berrear un jonrón. ¿Cuánta gente que no le gusta el béisbol vio el jonrón de Junior Caminero en la final del Lidón? ¿Tú viste eso? Eso le encantó a todo el mundo. La gente, súper bueno, pero en Estados Unidos no puede.
Hay un pitcher de Colorado que en
It is
spring
true.
training he was doing a split after every strikeout. I don't know if you guys saw
It
that.
is true though, but I don't know what it says about me that I also get bothered by some of these things too. Is this am I an old head? You know, like, is that what it comes down to?
Baseball
Yes.
tiene
'Cause
ese mal pensamiento.
Yeah, but
En general, no eres tú.
I agree, but it's funny because I'm usually on the defending side of this because it's defending. This often happens. I spend a lot of time in Latin America. This often happens with Latin American players, and I find myself like you want to see it, but within reason, not like, you know, Caminero throws the ball, throws the bat 40 feet up in the air, and
Eso es so
but
cool, bro. A mí me encanta eso.
you know, I find myself seeing both sides of this because there is something to. It's almost like you have to acknowledge that the lost generation of fan that we're trying to get back, doesn't feel exactly the way about those bat flips and all that. There is some some middle ground, but I don't know where I sit on it right now, because I think this event should exist.
It might be necessary though.
Might be necessary.
For sure. Tuviste Juan Soto, ¿verdad?
There's a lot of people cringing at
¿Cuánta gente, cuántos niños tú no ves haciendo
the Soto shuffle?
El shuffle de Juan Soto. Un movimiento.
Like
¿Tú te
4 of
imaginas
my players do the
shuffle? ¿Por qué? Porque lo vieron en Juan Soto. Y le estás llegando a una generación de niños.
Right.
Ahora, ¿tú te imaginas que, por ejemplo, cada jugador tuviera su propio celly para cuando da un jonrón, como hace Justin Jefferson con el Greedy, que lo han hecho en todos lados? Y tú dices, wow, y los niños imitándolo y las redes sociales haciendo lo mismo y hacen un trending con el celly de Aaron Judge. Dude, ¿por qué no se ha integrado al siglo XXI? ¿Entiendes? Hay que pasar la página, dejar un poco atrás el tema de la... como el deporte clásico que respeta todo. Yo no creo que sea una falta de respeto celebrar un jonrón, ¿entiendes?
I mean, it might not need to be the extreme of throwing the bat up, but you can have a Soto Soto has carved his own, thing.
I mean, Jazz has his own thing that a lot of younger players that I've seen videos on social media emulate, like the Euro step, home run. You know, like I'm sure kids love to do that.
You know how many kids you ask them who's your favorite player? Jazz Chisholm.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, according to. But there's like a whole population of people that are true baseball people that feel a certain way.
The purists.
I don't even know if it's purists, right? Like, because on the one end we're asking for nostalgia and Americana and all that, on the other end we're saying let's step into the 21st century. So it's these two things that are going in opposite directions, yet you're trying to like make them fit together. Because you need the history, nostalgia, Americana.
Sure.
I want all that, but I think there's...
Hay que un punto intermedio, ¿verdad? Entre una cosa y la otra. Entre una cosa y la otra. Porque, por ejemplo, Jazz Chisholm, que hace el Eurostep y así en tercera y el swag y todo eso. ¿Cuántos pitchers no le pegaron la pelota a Jazz Chisholm después de hacer eso?
O quieren hacer eso.
¿Verdad?
Right.
No. ¿Cuántos pitchers no le dijeron, este me hizo, pero mira como se demoró dándola 7 turnos bate, pelotazo?
Right, pero si tenemos un pitcher
Pónchalo.
aquí mismo, ¿verdad? Un pitcher de Grandes Ligas.
Sí.
Y le dan un tremendo jonronazo frente de 30,000 gente.
Sí.
¿Tú crees? He's gonna, like,
no le va a gustar.
He's not gonna like that at all.
Pero tampoco le gusta al bateador poncharse con base llena.
No, yo creo que depende. No, yo creo que depende del pitcher. Un pitcher que...
No pitcher's happy about that.
No
pitcher feels good about like pimp job. Is like, you know what? You earned that pimp job. Like,
none of the pitchers are going to be happy of giving up a bomb.
Completely.
Okay? But I don't think that 100% of them are going to be bothered because the hitter pimped the home run. You understand what I'm saying?
If it's not 100, it's 98%. Pitchers in the big leagues.
There's been. I think did Caminero get plunked after pimping that
Dominican
one?
winter ball is its own.
Pero everyone here en MLB Network ponía el video y gozando y riéndose, y en MLB Network cogió no sé cuántas millones de vistas. Es verdad, fue allá, pero aquí a la gente le gustó también.
It's the dunking on somebody, like tomahawk dunking on somebody, and then standing over
them and
like,
looking.
where's the line?
Yeah.
You know, where do you draw? Like, because that's
Yeah,
showing
that's
emotion,
extreme.
personality. Like, yeah, you already did it with the dunk itself, but then you like, and so I think this is baseball's version of that. And like, where do you find those lines? And
Pero
it's not
¿por qué
like,
en otros deportes sí se hace? Porque todo el mundo sabe que Stephen Curry hace así cuando hace un triple, o el otro antes de empezar el juego hace cosas, ¿entiendes? Y juegan con el momento de que si yo hice algo bueno, ¿por qué no me lo puedo disfrutar? Y la gente, y crear ese vínculo con la gente en el momento de que hice algo bueno.
Is this a generational gap?
It should be narrowed down to, like, at the end of the day, is it not a fact that there's less kids playing baseball? Like I think
Is
that's-
that a fact? I don't know that. I don't know that it is.
At least
No,
Your
in-
kid
in-
plays
in-
baseball?
in youth. No, in little league, no. It hasn't. The
numbers
numbers
have to
haven't
be up.
dwindled. Yeah, they're
Numbers are up.
But it's after they get to high school or when they're at that age of high school baseball that it starts to decline.
But baseball, we were talking about it the other day. Baseball's, anoche lo estamos hablando.
Yeah.
Baseball is booming.
Sí,
Baseball
béisbol
is like an
rompió
entity
récord. Por
overall,
ejemplo,
zoomed out,
la
is
serie
boom.
mundial pasada fue la serie más vista desde 2008, ¿verdad? Béisbol rompió récord de ganancias el año pasado históricamente. Increíblemente, con todos esos números de ganancias y que el béisbol está en un momento histórico donde el mercado incluso asiático se está incorporando a lo que es las grandes ligas de una gran manera y todo eso, tenemos dos equipos que están jugando en estadios ligas menores.
That was tough, man.
Thrown out a third.
That was a nice play.
What's that golden rule? You don't make the third out at third base.
challenge.
There was no.
Not yet.
Dane couldn't do anything about that.
Yeah.
Don't challenge.
I wanted to comment on the
No,
challenging
next.
system because I know, first of all, shout out Austin
¿Y qué
Lamb.
fue? ¿Robando?
No,
Austin
un
Lamke
grounder
is-
por el short
Y lo cogió en
y
tercera.
lo cogió en el hole y no podía tirar la primera, solo tiraba tercera.
Pero fue force o
No,
fue tagged?
No, se llama
They
no
didn't
fue
challenge though, right?
No.
Pretty sure it's
challenge.
force, right?
I want to
He was
shout out.
second.
I want
Yeah,
to
it's a
shout
force
out the
out.
challenge, like the guys who do, as a former replay tech myself, like Austin Lamke, who's doing it right now for the Marlins. Like it's funny because in that moment, like you see the call into the dugout or the replay room, and everybody in that place is like, dude, what's taking so long? Like, how could this possibly be that hard to figure out? And just to give a little anecdote, dude, that time goes by in no time. You're sweating. You're like, you feel like you have no time to stop the play, and then on the outside, everybody's like, what's taking so long? This is bullshit. Like, but shout out to those guys that do that job because you're under the gun in no amount of time, and your manager's like, do we do it or not? And then if you say yes, but it's kind of borderline, and you get it wrong, like you're gonna hear about it after that game for sure.
What's the time limit on the manager having to say it? It's like something like 15 seconds
It's been
or something like
crunched
that.
down more
Yeah,
lately
which
than when I
it-
first started doing it.
If the
It felt
manager
like
has to
no
call
time at
for
all.
it and then has to say to the umpire, hey, like I'm challenging, that gives the replay text like what, 10 seconds max?
And
to
you
make that
assume it's a
decision?
binary thing, like yes challenge, no challenge. When I was doing it, it was more like it's like, hey man, this one I would 70% yes. You know, like you do it with a degree of confidence, like it's hard to tell the slow-mo angle. I'm waiting for the slow-mo angle. It doesn't really give it. Or you have the information, but it's not all in one image, which is what they forced you to do. It needed to all be, you couldn't piece together angles to come to a conclusion.
Right, por eso la
At a certain point.
regla dice que si no se ve claramente
Right.
que el árbitro se equivocó, se mantiene la decisión del árbitro.
Yeah.
Right. Eso, si hay 2 o 3 tiros de la cámara donde no se ve exactamente,
Look, here's
se
the
mantiene
replay.
la decisión del árbitro.
Or no?
There's also a big that aspect is huge. It's what was the call on the field, right? Which gives you a big look into, okay, should we challenge this or not? Because the call on the field was
Right.
out. So
Great
are they
point.
really going to overturn it? Like,
Great point.
is it worth it? You know?
Right. Like, is it enough to overturn? Basically,
Yeah.
Like you can still feel like, I think he's out. It looks like he's out. I don't know that you have enough to overturn it based on this. And I think it's just it's kind of like a forgotten part of the game. But there are people who sit there and do those jobs, and I know because I used to be one of those people. And it's honestly, it's where I got one of my best educations on the game ever. One of the best perspectives to watch the game from is that perspective, because there's something on the line with every pitch. You have to know all the rules. You have to know the situation of the game, and you're accountable to, like, the manager calls you.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, what's going on here? And before, you could talk more about the game. Now, you can only limit your conversation to, are you challenging, yes or no? But before, it was like, hey, you know, how much did this miss by? Like, what's going on in this situation? Like, I've never had to be so accountable to every pitch of the game. And I feel like I still use it as calibration for, like, where I would go on to later scout and felt like, damn, to watch a game that detailed and that granular for 162 with the ability to be called out on it at any point, I feel like it was a huge, like, learning experience. And just to humanize that position, because there's 30 guys right now throughout the league doing that job right now as we're talking about it. Like, locked in to every pitch. And you cannot be on the other side of that phone call with the answer, I don't know.
Bro, tú me dices a mí que yo estoy...
You just can't.
Tú me dices yo nervioso a mí, pero él está más nervioso que yo.
Oh, yeah. No.
está
We'll get to it.
está igual, está-
We'll get to it.
Yo soy así.
You have different things at stake.
Tú me imaginas en la casa, yo estoy como que brincando, tirándome por todos lados.
Right. You're showing a lot of control right now.
Yeah.
Showing a lot of
Gritando al
control
televisor
right
que-
now.
Yeah.
Bro,
So,
por cierto,
If you ask
Jesús
my
Tinoco-
fiance, she's like, Actually, last year was a very toned down year for me. I watched games, and a part of the problem was what you were talking about earlier, where it was so hard to find where to watch the game, right? So then it's like if I didn't really go out of my way to either buy access to that game because it was blocked out or go to like, you know, a streaming site to try to find it, I kind of had to take the route of like, okay, like I'll watch the condensed game, or I'll just chime in on the box score and look at highlights on Twitter or something like that. And so it became a much more relaxed version of myself watching the game.
Sure.
But when I'm like in it, it's like an ugly version of me.
It's an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
I feel like you're definitely riding with the highs and lows of everything. Like, look at the conversation.
It's like every pitch is like because baseball's like that. Every pitch changes the scenario. And it's like, you know, I thought it was going to screw us, but it didn't. There was like a 3-0 count earlier. Actually, it did. We ended up striking out, but it was a 3-0 count, and they called a obvious ball a strike.
Yeah.
And from there, I knew that he was going to strike out. Like that 3-0 count turning into a walk to make it like first and second.
That's how you know you're playing defensive baseball.
Turned
when
into
3-0 turns into 3-1, and you feel like the at bat's over. That's when you're like you're playing to not lose instead of playing to win, kind of thing.
And 3-1's still a great count, but you're like
great hitters.
But you're like, okay, well that was a ball that screwed me up, you know. And then in your head, you're like, okay, now what's coming, you know?
Right.
This guy's such a difficult out, Brian Reynolds.
Yeah. Estuvo una vez muy extremadamente cerca de llegar a Miami.
Sí.
Pero tan cerca como que la noticia se dio y al final...
Yo pensaba que iba a venir para acá.
John Heisman lo publicó en su Twitter, el cambio.
Nunca llegó
pero
tan
tú sabes por
cerca
quién fue,
como
¿no?
eso.
Fue por Edward Cabrera. Ese tweet existió, él lo tuvo que borrar. ¿Verdad?
Estaba en esa discusión y no...
Se lesionó.
No, simplemente el cambio no se dio, se regresó hacia atrás. Pero Jesús Tinoco es extremadamente famoso por ser el pitcher que Josh le dio en jonrón 62. En el jonrón de Aaron Judge, el jonrón 62 famoso, fue contra Jesús Tinoco, casualmente, que ahora es el cerrador de los Marlins.
Que estaba con nosotros antes.
Sí, es su segundo paso por los Marlins. Buen pitcher, ¿verdad?
It is a big out.
I hope we don't have to get to it. Sorry for interrupting.
No, go ahead.
I hope we don't have to get into it because I hope we win in the bottom of the ninth and they don't score here. But
we're
one element that I we were talking about the pitch clock and speeding up the game and different elements to make the game exciting and all that stuff is, you know, that extra inning base runner on second base. Like kind of, I don't know everybody's opinion on that.
What's yours?
Don't really love it.
Why?
I just think it's unfair to just put someone on second base with no outs, like for the pitcher standpoint. Just from being a pitcher, like from a pitcher standpoint, I don't like it. I know both teams get to do it, but I think there's also an unfair advantage to the home team. For example, if there's they get the first out and they're not able to move the runner over as the away team, then the home team, all they have to do is literally move the runner over, get a fly ball. There's a lot more strategy in the away team maybe trying to steal a run and maybe get even 2 runs because they think that the home team's already going to get that first run, you know?
I see that. First of all, I think there should be an inherent benefit to being at home. I don't know that it should be so overt like that it helps you win a game a lot easier. But what stands out to me there is like on the team building side of it, you are terrified of extra innings. When you're thinking about series, like playing in series and having enough pitching just to get through that series and to roll it over to the next one, and how like those games that feel like they're going to go 16, 17 innings because there's just no offensive momentum going and it's just like a, you know.
¿Y qué creen no sé cómo se diría en inglés, pero decían el golden batter o something like that?
The golden bat.
Que es como que en cualquier momento del juego puedes llamar a un bateador que quieras a recibir un turno.
I'm glad that didn't happen.
No, eso a mí, si eso pasa, yo creo que...
Y pues alguien que batió el inning anterior.
No, el turno anterior. Tú puedes venir Aaron Judge, el pitcher, a batear, ponchaste a Aaron Judge y el tipo dice,
ahora ponchalo otra vez.
Ahora lo Aaron Judge, ¿entiendes?
¿Qué
es eso?
Eso no...
Pero Rob Manfred habló de eso.
Right, but so it's kind of like other things that happen, you put something out there, you see what the reaction is, and then maybe you feel like como puedes hacer algo entre los dos extremos, ¿verdad? Puedes caer, hay algo, eso tiene algo de valor.
Es que hay una línea muy fina entre hacer el deporte más dinámico o más entretenido y
cambiar el deporte por
cambiarlo. Y que ya no sea béisbol, ¿entiendes?
Por completo.
Porque nosotros en el béisbol tenemos una cosa que casi ningún deporte tiene, y es toda la data que hay del juego desde hace 150 años, ¿verdad? y que es comparable con lo de hoy. Tú puedes comparar un jugador de 1902 con un jugador de 2025. Porque el juego es el mismo. Y cada cual en su contexto, pero el juego es el mismo. ¿Verdad? Pero si tú empiezas a cambiar las cosas, ya no lo va a cambiar. ¿Cuántos turnos bates más va a recibir un bateador bueno cuando va a ser el Golden Batter o el Golden Bat? Si lo van a llamar en todos los juegos, va a recibir 7 turnos bates. ¿Verdad? Entonces va a cambiar las estadísticas y eso que va a ser, tú sabes, vas a tener más oportunidad de batear. Básicamente. Vas a tener más oportunidad de impulsar carreras.
Y no solamente eso, ahí tú estás cambiando un deporte que es de equipo
a una cosa
a
más
algo que es más individual. And I don't think that is in the best.
Dude, ¿cuántas
interests.
carreras empuja Shohei Ohtani si tú le pones esa regla con los Dodgers? Yo vi más de 200 carreras en una temporada.
I think there's a reason that will never. O sea,
I don't think that's going to get any traction.
Pero, ¿qué están tratando de lograr
Right.
con poner eso, o sea, soltar eso? I'm curious as to what they're trying to. Like, what information is telling them that this isn't even close to viable route to
Where do
take?
they get that?
And like, what problem are they trying to solve? Like, an ability to end games, not quicker, but like, because I'm telling you, on the team building side of things, extra innings are just like everybody's rolling their eyes. Like, you're like, my bullpen's crushed for this game.
Yes,
and what ends up happening that people don't realize is
It changes the dynamic of the series.
not only the series, but the way you build the roster. You'll like put a guy as your 26th man, like the 13th man in the bullpen, that will like get put into a game. You're putting him there just in case you get protected, like to protect yourself in case you go into an extra inning game. But that guy's there, and now you're in this game, and he just wears it for 70 pitches because you just got to wear it. We can't burn the bullpen for the next week.
Sure.
And then that guy gets optioned. Usually it's a guy with options. He gets optioned for that night that he gives you 75 pitches and he just like, gave you everything.
Yeah.
And now you're optioned because we can't crush our bullpen like this. Still happens a little bit, but the extra inning rule protects against that.
Sure, I see definitely the organizational benefit to that, for sure.
But it's not satisfying as a fan to just like, if you're on the other side of that for the game to end and you're like, oh shit, that didn't.
Yeah, like the whole momentum of the game is like it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's like, people trading baskets in basketball. Like you're like, okay, like they just went 3 outs, 1, 2, 3 inning. Okay, the other one's 1, 2, 3 inning. Again, from a pitcher standpoint, I like that because I like to see pitchers and how they work. Maybe people don't like that because then there's no offensive output. Yeah. But taking that away by then creating a disadvantage for them, nice.
Let's go.
Is in my opinion, or at least maybe make it like, okay, instead of the 10th, make it like the 12th inning. Like if we really go through 2 extra innings, like make that 12th inning like the extra, batter.
Increíblemente el año pasado, el primer partido contra los Piratas, también fuimos a
extra inning.
a tiempo, a extra inning, bro.
Extra inning.
Y ahora vamos otra vez a extra inning contra los Piratas.
No, final del noveno.
Yeah, bottom 9.
Right.
Espérate.
Final del noveno, pero llegamos.
Lo vamos a dejar al campo, papá. Ya va.
Es más, me voy, no.
I mean, there's also other creative ways. If the whole thing is shortening it, but there's no way to do it without creating a disadvantage, right? Yeah. So you could do something where instead of 3 outs, maybe there's 2 outs, right? But then you could also remove a fielder or something else like that to create that kind of situation. Both teams have to do that.
Yeah,
so you could try and do things that where it's like, all right, it's not going to go as long because in other sports you'll go into an overtime, but it'll be way less time. Yeah. So in baseball there is no time limit other than outs. So that's where my mind would go in a way that's not. The golden bat thing is obviously a thing that in the Savannah Bananas and that league where they do it, and it's a show.
You were there. How was that experience?
I mean, that show was it's incredible, but there's also so much going on that you're like, it could be overwhelming for some people.
Overstimulation kind of thing.
Yeah, but it is very much like it's the extreme end of what we're talking about, like catered toward youth, but then a family environment too to kind of like rally and get people kind of like engaged in it. My take was like, just extract 10% of this energy and put it into baseball, and you will see a more than 10% increase in the kind of energy and kind of watch viewership of the game. So
them selling out Raymond James Stadium, like that NFL stadium, just completely sold out to watch this baseball game. Yeah, and it's more than that, right?
Dude,
but
eso no lo hace los Yankees. Si van ahí.
Right, and then if you go to the thing, I think. You tell me if this was the experience, because Danny, shout out Danny and Kane's Insight, or D-Money as he goes, he said that the merch lines were like,
oh yeah,
like you had to,
and they had a
basically
special,
if you got on the merch line, you're missing everything that's happening because you're going to wait there for a while.
They had a special beer, I don't know with what brewery, but like it's like the Savannah or the banana beer or whatever it's called. And so they're making money off that kind of collab as well. So they're finding other ways to monetize it on top of tickets that are more expensive. Mind you, there's way less games, so it's not like they're trying to get in a way short period of time. But
I think that could be another avenue that Major League should explore or could explore, shortening the season. Instead of 162 games, making it a little bit
yeah, and
less.
As a casual fan, I would like that, but then it goes back to the records, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, now it's a shortened season, so you don't even have as many innings or as many at-bats to even get those. So, like, will there be just that asterisk or that marker where it's saying, hey, we had to do this because the state of the game called for it? Or will there just be like, no, we're going to keep things the way they are and kind of
I think, like you said, that the 10% of energy, I mean, I think we saw it, the World Baseball Classic, like right up in front of us. Like that, I went to almost, I had season tickets for the Marlins before. This year I wasn't able to do it, for other reasons. But I got to get a ticket to every single World Baseball Classic game. And I probably went to, I think, like 9 or 10 of them total. Wow. Including the last game, like the Ohtani Trout at bat, which was like ridiculous energy. And you just felt the energy in that stadium. It was so palpable. It's something that, honestly, unfortunately, I don't see in any Marlins games or very little. Did that just go out?
Nice.
Okay.
Nice. Triple.
Say Nick Fortes. Go three. There we go.
We won, bro.
Get there.
No,
Get there. No, piano. Piano.
Seguía muriendo, vaya,
There we go. There we go. So yeah, that.
¿Te lo dije o no te lo dije?
No, tú eres el tipo. Yo lo único que sé es que solo veo un juego otra vez si me siento aquí. Este asiento me está dando tremenda suerte.
Y que Adrian paga para el juego. Yeah, no. So I think that energy, at the World Baseball Classic is something that the MLB needs to tap into.
Yeah. I think if they're not borrowing, to go back to the Savannah Bananas, as well as your WBC point, but WBC is MLB, so it's like, if they're not borrowing from like some of the stuff they're learning, and I think what's really interesting is like where they've crossed into collaborations with like, they did something with Clemson that I thought was cool. They like blended with an actual team. It wasn't just like Harlem Globetrotter style. They like, the Clemson baseball team played Savannah ball for a game, and so it was like, you involve the actual team to be able to do the thing, and I thought that was
speed.
That was
defense.
Yeah, I mean, and also just in-game entertainment stuff. Like the 7th inning stretch sometimes feels like, okay, it's a break, but like maybe it's more entertaining, or maybe there's something else to layer in. Or maybe there's a 3rd innings or a 4th inning stretch in between, like something else to throw in instead of, because Savannah Banana, it's the whole game. It's music blasting, it's people dancing, it's too much for this style of baseball. But again, take pieces of it and inject it and see how it plays out. And it might be a team by team thing too.
And if you've watched minor league baseball at all, you'll see that like a lot of those things are like minor league baseball has been doing a lot of those things between innings for a while. So it's interesting that like it's almost like Americana in that way, that it's minor league baseball. So
Dude,
go, 9th inning.
No, Mr. K.
Your guy Stowers, right?
Stanford grad. He's gonna
maybe not grad.
Robert, los va a dejar al campo. Tu tipo los va a dejar al campo.
2nd and 3rd, no outs.
Stour power. Let's go.
Se llama Kai Targaryen.
Oh my God.
Middle.
Center cut. Just put the bat to the ball.
Sí, da una barbaridad, pero no me quedo callado.
Who's up after Stowers? I don't even remember the lineup anymore.
No,
Mervis is 4th.
Right. Hill. Daryl Hill. Daryl Hill? No sé, espérate.
Mira. No way.
Fair ball.
Fair ball.
¿Qué te dije?
Mr. K.
¿Qué te dije?
You called it.
Let's go.
Con eso me retiro.
Whatever Robert says, bet the opposite.
Dude, dije lo de el
wow, first opening day walk-off in Marlins history.
No hit de Randy.
Man, you just watched
I thought we did that. Like we had an extra inning game a couple years ago that we won. I thought that was on opening day.
¿Qué juego?
Against the Dodgers. I can't remember. No.
Let's go. Te quedas ahí.
No, para siempre. Adrian, Robert aquí, este es mi asiento.
¿Asiento?
Sí.
We had that in mind for the main guests, you know.
Dude, qué bueno, ven. Qué clase de
Wow,
juegazo. Oye,
Stowers.
tremendo juego para el Opening Day. El año pasado nos ganaron ellos, esta vez nos tocó a nosotros.
That's it. You're going to the World Series.
Ya solo faltan 90 juegos más de esa manera.
You know, if you keep this track, if you keep this pace.
Hey, we're undefeated.
That's a nice little.
Actually, it looks like there's quite a few people there.
That's a nice little
That's a tough
confidence
pitch.
booster for Stowers. He's had a rough go to start his career.
That's
Oye,
a
le dio
tough pitch to
durísimo.
hit.
Oof, close.
Así. Sí.
That's a
high
tough
fastball.
pitch to hit.
Let's go.
Up and in.
Nice.
Dude, ganamos un juego donde bichó Paul Skins.
bro,
Eso debería valer 3 juegos.
I didn't want to say it, but
That's
I
an
bet on the
interesting
Marlins today.
argument. Yeah.
Oh wow.
What?
Usually,
On the
if I
Marlins
do
today.
that, it goes the other way. So
¿Tú qué?
I didn't
So
wanna
wait,
say
hold
it.
on. Let's save a segment for
No
this.
way. No, tú eres
Because
cabrón.
Albert, I know this is right in your wheelhouse.
Dice
So,
aquel, dice
How do
aquel.
you guys bet on the Marlins? Do you bet on them emotionally, or do you actually
Dude.
like? Is
I
it
would only
are they
do it on a day like today where it's opening day, but if
Right.
it's,
because
I
of the
try not
emotion attached to it?
Yeah.
I
How
have
do you do
I
it?
have a strict. Well, sometimes I break my rule, but I have a rule that's semi-strict that I don't bet on home teams. So I'll never bet on like a result of like a Heat game or a Dolphin game or a Marlins game. Just
By home
because,
team, you mean your hometown?
yeah, like my home team. Like I won't bet on them
Too emotional?
or against them because I feel like I'm impacting the result too much for some,
Yes.
which I have obviously no doing in that
And
whatsoever.
when they lose, you just feel like the biggest piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I'll bet on like prop bets mostly. I'll do like Xavier Edwards to steal a base. I didn't do that today, but just to give an example, like
Right.
those are the type of things that I'll do. Or I like betting like Tyler Hero threes, even though he's been a little bit of a brick house lately.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically I won't bet on result because I feel like I have too much influence in the result because of my bad record gambling.
Yeah. Yo tengo dos reglas. No apostar nunca a los Marlins. Y la segunda, no draftear ningún jugador de los Marlins en el fantasy.
Ok.
Bro.
Eso está
Porque
bueno.
en mi mente, ahora yo quiero ir y votar a cualquier jugador y coger a Kyle Stowers, ¿entiendes? Porque hoy hizo un walk-off,
Emotional to it.
¿entiendes? Entonces, me ha ido mal en los fantasy cuando cojo a los jugadores de los Marlins.
Yeah, I think I'm glad we touched that because I want El Big League Show to be positioned to like kind of acknowledge that a lot of people are playing fantasy baseball and a lot of people are betting on baseball. And it's like we're all looking at similar information. It's like all this energy is focused in these directions and there are these things happening. Maybe this is just a shameless plug for me to like betting sponsors and fantasy baseball sponsors to look at the show, but I think that we can be researching the same information that can apply to these, like as a fan, as a bettor, and as a like playing fantasy baseball. You're kind of like, hopefully this show can help you stay locked in or give nuggets or, I don't know, I'm imagining like a best case scenario of this where you can kind of come to this place to feel educated in both these fronts. So how'd you do today so far then?
I didn't bet today.
One of those emotional don't do it
Yeah,
days.
I didn't bet today. No, today was a feel out the season. I don't like betting on opening day because pitchers don't always go like as far as they usually do, like
Sure.
the aces. Like the hitters aren't fully on yet because they've just gotten out of spring training. So I don't really like betting on opening day because I have no idea what's going to happen. But usually around like the second or third month of the season, that's when I start to see trends of like, how the players are doing, what, who they're facing, lefty versus righty, stuff like that, what park they're playing in, how hot they've been, in the last 10 or so games, because all that kind of plays into a factor of, knowing them, like you said, as from a fan standpoint. And then also seeing, like, sometimes you're just playing on a feel and you're like, okay, well, he's gone like 7 for his last 10, so he's for sure going to get a hit today, or maybe he's gone 0 for his last 30, so he has to break that at some point, So things like that is kind of where I sit. The beginning of the year is tough for me because I don't want to just throw my money out there just to do it,
Right.
Yo quiero decir algo, yo no le decía a Mr. K a Stowers porque se ponchaba, era porque su nombre es Kyle, entonces yo le llamo de esa manera.
Yeah, okay, after the fact.
Créete
After
eso.
the fact.
Bien.
Damien, are you ready to come on yet? No?
Would you lose one leg? One leg?
He looks at me and goes,
I lost my parlay on the Braves.
Damn.
Con Michael King ahí.
I've also seen I haven't really used it myself, but some people that will bet against their home team and call it a victory tax. So that if they lose,
it's like a silver lining
then
in the loss.
Then they win, but if their team wins, then whatever.
Something that you brought up earlier was Tyler O'Neill homering in 5 straight opening days.
6
and so
today.
no, 6 today. So this morning I was texting one of my good friends, Avery, and I was like, shout out Avery. I was like, should we do it? Like, I don't know. But then I was like, if I do it, he's definitely not going to hit it. So then he's like, no, don't do it. We're not going to do it. This is not going to hit. That's impossible. And then 5 minutes into the first game, he's like, hits the home run. I get it on my phone. Hey, special guest.
There he is, special guest.
Oh,
Damien
increíble.
DeVito in the
Mira.
house. Say hi, Damien.
You saw who won? Who?
The Marlins.
Yeah. 90 more to go, baby.
Don't get used to it, buddy.
Bro, yo con el ruso que hace el podcast conmigo, me dice hoy, mira, por tu culpa le apostó a que Mervis iba a jonrón hoy, a Kings. Y la apuesta estaba que tú dabas 5 y te dan $250. Una barbaridad esa, ¿verdad?
Ajá.
Y yo le dije, bro, tenías que haber apostado, lo tengo los mensajes, me lo puedo mostrar. Tenía que haber apostado a O'Neill, que haga 5, no sé qué. Y me dijo, no, eso no va a pasar otra vez. Ahí pasó. Ahí pasó, increíble.
Yo se lo mandé y él me dijo, oh, my bad. I didn't think he had it in him. And I was like, me neither, but he did it.
Tiene que llamarse...
Lo hizo porque no lo hizo.
Sí,
porque
claro,
no le puse
claro,
dinero.
claro. Tiene que llamarse Opening Tyler O'Neill Day. A partir de ahora. 6 home runs.
Ahora para el próximo lo voy a hacer. Voy a
Y no va a
probarlo,
pasar.
lo voy a hacer y entonces no lo va a dar.
Para demostrar que efectivamente... cuando
Nos
tú-
vemos en un año y vamos a ver lo que...
Yeah, I love this because it's just to prove that we're kind of not putting our money where our mouth is, but explaining our very authentic experience. Like Damon here, look at him in baseball uniform. You're in this baseball life, and this thing that we can all attach ourselves to, that we can all, and whether it be betting, fantasy baseball, youth sports, we're all organizing around this thing, this sport, and I think that's awesome. That's El Big League Show, that's what I wanted it to be very much so. I'm curious. My brother's in the stands in Milwaukee, listening into this. So we're connecting at that level, and we're connecting here at this level through Damien. So I think it's cool, man. I've been trying to get my wife to look over to see if she wanted to come on for any point of this, but she keeps giving me the
Waving you
not
off.
really. Well, no, I think it's relevant because if anybody is a contributor to a Big League Show, it's you, because you've seen every iteration of this happen and have shown nothing but exceptional support. So I love you very much, and you're, again, shameless plug to you overall. And this beautiful balloon that we have to celebrate our first episode.
Caballo power.
The only thing missing is Amalia, but she's at home with my parents. So yeah, she's watching from home. But Junior, we haven't given you much room to say much of anything. Do you want to have any parting thoughts before we go here?
Marlins win with tremendo caballo power.
Let's go! I love that, man. I love that. I guess it's as good a place to stop as any, right? I want to really thank everybody who's been involved. Alex with Goose Media, man, you're behind the scenes over there. You could have jumped in at any point. I hope on the next one you do. Yeah, absolutely.
The goose is loose.
I think that we're gonna keep this going. This was kind of let's test it out, see how this live stream thing goes. But I liked the format. I just liked how many people we were able to wrap into the conversation, how many different things that we were able to shamelessly plug / promote, but also I don't know. I liked and enjoyed the conversation. I want to have it more. I think Le Batard was onto something, and McAfee is onto something with the group component and the different layers of opinion and the different layers of takes. So we're going to do this more. And then there's going to be a couple things that come out here in the next few weeks that are more conversational segments. People that I've sat down with, our other co-host, D-Money, Danny Enriquez, who's going to be on as an official co-host moving forward, but he's on vacation this week. We have some really cool interviews that we've already done, as well as things that are upcoming here. But I think this is as good a place to sign off as any. So thanks for watching our Big League Show.
Bye.